Hi.
My name's J. Stan McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
All right, my friends, once again, it's time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J. Stan McCauley, along with Jonathan Small, Talk Champion for Monday in the house once again. Good morning there, Jonathan. How you doing?
It's good to be back here again. As I mention every single week, I look forward to being here at Morning Talk or on Morning Talk live with J. Stan McCauley's talk show.
How was your weekend?
Weekend was average. Nothing spectacular, but nothing depressing. So it's kind of like in the middle. You know, I guess next week is the big weekend for the Independence Day holiday. So just trying to get through this weekend and try to plan something for next weekend.
Big plans for next week?
I'm hoping so. You know, I think last year was kind of pretty normal Independence Day weekend. I know the year before everything was pretty much shut down. But I think everything is kind of back in full gear. So just got to figure out, you know, somebody I know birthday is on Independence Day. So I'm going to try to see if I can connect with this person. I'm not sure. But I guess your weekend was kind of what? Because you had mentioned something, I guess Saturday night. Did you have anything that you was doing Saturday night?
Saturday. This past Saturday.
Yes.
This past Saturday I was in New York.
Oh man, I would have loved to go down. I know you called. You had left a message saying what was I doing? Was I working?
Yeah. About 2 blocks away from the Empire State, but it was a fashion show.
Oh boy.
Yeah. You could have hung out.
Well, my work schedule. I mean, that's when you had left the message. Was I working Saturday night?
Yeah.
And Saturday evening. If it would have been yesterday, now I definitely would have jumped on it. But I just timing wasn't set up. Okay, so did you have a nice time in New York?
Great times.
Okay.
Miss Cleo went with us. My dad and Miss Cleo.
Oh, okay. A fashion show.
A fashion show. Yeah. New York summer fashion explosion.
But plan for next weekend, man. I mean, I don't know what your plans are set for next weekend.
I can't just make a fashion show.
Well, not a fashion show. Just plan something for the city next weekend. You
Oh,
know?
no. I'm not going to the city. I wasn't going there to go attend a fashion show. I was down there because I was taping the fashion show. It'll air probably tonight, maybe. Tonight. If not tonight, tomorrow. Yeah, with Chat It Up with Jesse.
Well, y'all always go to New York.
Every year.
Every
year. We do this fashion show every year. Last year was across the street from the Empire State Building on a rooftop.
Well, next time, give me a little more advance notice the next time. Maybe I could have worked my schedule around that if I'd have known.
Well, believe it or not, generally, I don't drive.
Oh, okay.
Right. So this year, I drove down. Now, I don't like driving by myself, so I was looking for company.
Yeah.
And so usually Jesse drives or I drive with someone else. But this year my time constraint would not allow me to leave at 8 and get back here at 4 in the morning. 8 in the morning and back here at 4 in the morning.
You don't like driving into the city. You rather ride. But not, you don't.
No. I love to drive, and I love driving into New York.
Okay.
I love driving in New York. I like to drive, but I don't necessarily drive to shoots that I'm doing for someone else. So, You like Chaka Khan? Yeah.
She's up in Boston next week. You want to go? Oh, well, that's too early. I mean, you got your schedule, but she's gonna be up in Boston. Think about it.
You doing dinner tickets the whole nine where we got front row seats? The Jonathan Small special?
See, I'm already committing myself, and I may not be able to get into the concert. I'm committing, saying let's go, and I'm not even sure how it's going to be set up. It's going to be free.
You talk to Shaka's people?
I think it's going to be a free concert, though.
Where's it at?
Somewhere in Boston. I gotta check out the location. They have like the Boston Pops Festival. But she's gonna be one of 3 other entertainers there. So, but I can't picture that being free though. A big entertainer like that.
Yeah, I can't speak to that. I think I'm committed for the 4th of July though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But thank you for the for the intention, Jonathan. You know? Yeah.
Do that.
All right. Jonathan ready to hang.
Well, yeah, I mean, Independence Day, I mean, that's the holiday, I mean, for the summer, I think.
All right. Well, before we get to our guests, I think what we should do is just raid people's house. Just look around, drive around Hartford and look for folk having a barbecue.
Well, we could do that.
And just roll up on them. Hey, y'all, how you doing?
We could do that on any day, but you want to set a special day. I mean, we can go to people going to have barbecues most likely for the whole weekend. I'm pretty sure whether it's Saturday, Sunday, or going into Monday. At least I know now we're not going to be doing a show. We're going to take the weekend off next week. Unless you got something planned for... No, you don't do other shows on Monday, though. You just do this show. Or you do...
Well, no. So Monday, we're off Monday.
We're off Monday, right.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But you don't do other things on Monday. Don't you do other shows? But that's going to be a major...
I don't know. I might use the day to sleep.
Okay. Get some rest. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna be interesting. We'll talk about. I guess we got the whole summer, so we don't have to jam.
Yeah. We got the whole summer. Okay. We have the whole summer. But nonetheless, having more fun, of course, than talk show hosts should be allowed to have. It's morning talk. Now, of course, every morning we have special guests join us from around the country. This morning, of course, like every Monday, we have another special guest. So we always let Jonathan have the high honor of introducing our guest. So, Mr. Small, we'll let you have the honors.
All right. Good morning to people out there on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley Talk Show. We have a very interesting intellectual community activist who is very passionate about what she is advocating for in her hometown. And we have the privilege of having this guest this morning, again, on Morning Talk Live with J. Stan McCauley. We have a candidate running for the 70th Assembly District in New York. She's also the founder, director of Silent Cry, Inc., based out of Harlem, New York, no other than Shawanna Vaughn. Good morning, Shawanna. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm amazing. Thank you, gentlemen, for having this conversation this morning.
Okay, it's our pleasure, Shawanna. Shawanna, could you kind of let people know a little bit about yourself and background before we get into our topics of discussion?
Absolutely. So my name is Shawanna Vaughn. I'm the director of Silent Cry, also a candidate for Assembly in the 70th District. But more importantly, I'm a mother, and I'm an activist, and I'm a humanitarian. But I am definitely an unlikely candidate who's running. I'm formerly incarcerated. I've been to the foster care system, and I was born in prison. So I'm what most people would say was counted out before I ever got started. And I'm so grateful and thankful that that's not my narrative, and that there's more for me, which means that there's more for everybody who is formerly incarcerated, who's been to the foster care system. And I'm happy to be here with you guys today to have this conversation. It's very important. It's very important to know that nobody is their last circumstance.
Shawanna, the whole purpose basically is I paid attention last week towards an incident that took place in Harlem involving some type of mass shooting to go along with the death of a rising college basketball star. What's the name? Darius?
Yes.
Lee, I believe, is the last name.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think this drew attention, number one, because he was a college basketball star. He was innocently killed, and then to go along with 9 other people. But living in Harlem, do you kind of see these type of issues and other issues that is very disturbing on a day-to-day basis that sometimes people outside of Harlem may not be aware of?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But at this juncture, gun violence is an all-time high in the entire nation right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone is saying they are not being affected by gun violence in this moment, it wouldn't be true, because poverty is at an all-time high. And when poverty is at an all-time high, crime is at an all-time high.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been living in Harlem, New York, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, wow. This time I've been in Harlem about 5 years.
Oh, okay. The reason why I asked that, because there was differences in different administrations, particularly for the mayoral administration over the past 2 to 3 different decades.
Yes, it has. But I've always been in New York for them. And every borough has suffered the changes of each mayor. Absolutely.
Okay. The district that you're running for in the 70th district in Harlem, which area of Harlem again does that represent?
So because we've redistricted and changed the lines, it represents from 142nd Street all the way to 110th and Central Park West. And it goes as far as 12th Avenue, which would be near Columbia University.
Okay.
Just for measurement's sake.
The position for the assembly in the 70th district in New York State, what exactly is this type of position? What is the criteria? What is the type of duties that you will be able to do if you are able to become elected?
The criteria, first of all, is to put your name on the ballot to run. Mm-hmm. And get enough signatures to run. Mm-hmm. So you do petition. And then once you're on the ballot, like even today, campaigning, getting your message out, getting to talk to people, knocking on doors. But the position itself is very important to me. Mm-hmm. They write policy and legislation, mm-hmm. Or they advocate for policy and legislation. And they give out money to community. And I believe that's so important, that I love policy and legislation. I have a bill called post-traumatic prison disorder. And I want to be able to lobby my own legislation. And I'm the only candidate that is running, including the incumbent, that writes policy and legislation.
Mm-hmm. And then this is also to go along with the organization that you founded and direct, Silent Cry Inc. Basically, when did that organization become established?
In 2012.
Okay. What was the motive and the purpose behind starting Silent Cry Inc.?
Silent Cry, I tell everybody, was out of my own silent tears. My brother was murdered. I've been to prison. I was born in prison, foster care. So I do mass incarceration, foster care, and gun violence, because those are the three things that have plagued my life. Mm-hmm. And those are the three things that I'm passionate about. No matter what's going on in my life, those things are prevalent. And as we can see with all the gun violence, it's still prevalent. My brother was murdered December 24th, 1986. Mm-hmm. And it is 2022 and we're still here. Mm-hmm. We're still at innocent people dying.
Right. Some of the underlying issues and conditions, you had mentioned poverty and other issues related to poverty, economics, I guess housing, but also maybe a breakdown of hope and just a lot of recklessness behavior. I mean, when you put a combination of many different factors all into one and you throw mm-hmm. it against a group of people and you're expecting them just to overcome and function, which in some cases people can, and then in some cases maybe people can't. Are you looking to get more at the root of the problem and not just address the symptoms, saying, well,
absolutely. Because we address the root and never the fruit. I mean, we address the fruit, but never the root of the problem. Mm-hmm. And so we're very punitive. We're a very punitive society. We're always willing and ready to throw someone away. And I think that that's dangerous. I don't think that prison is the solution for everybody, for everything, but prison has become the catch-all. Mm-hmm. Like we don't have mental health facilities in this country as a whole. Now prison is the new mental health facility. Prison is the new everything. And that's not the answer. But it's something that creates people to be more harmful. And so as I run for this seat, as I've been a lot of people and a lot of things, and thank God for evolution. But I understand that people's mental health is important. And in the Black community, we are still not at the forefront of addressing mental health and mental health services within our community.
And that's to go along with other factors too. But when you say the mental health issue, and then you're talking about the reentry system when people are being released, are you saying that people are not equipped, particularly when they are being released from prison, to be able to function back into society?
I'm saying that we get to prison because we have adverse life experiences, right? And then when you go to prison, they're exacerbated because it says correctional, it's very punitive, it's barbaric, and it's inhumane. And then they release you with $40 and a bus ticket and say, go. Well, I went in and I was adverse and I was traumatized. I'm more traumatized while I'm there, and now I'm home. And there was no help. That means we're going to keep doing recidivism. That means we're never going to get whole. And that's unfortunate because it plays out in our communities. It plays out in our families, and it plays out just in society. And we're not dealing with it well. And we have to have a better way to deal with not only people who are formerly incarcerated, but young people in general who are suffering. And I don't just mean Black people, because we're currently watching white children shoot up grocery stores, schools, and everything else, and everybody else's children. So, I mean, as a society, we got to deal with mental health. It's a problem.
Right.
And mental health and plus a gun equals exactly what we've been getting. An all-time surge in gun violence.
So with the latest incidents, particularly of mass shootings, and you hear many of your elected officials advocating for gun reform or some type of gun reform legislation, is there missing out some of the critical pieces that you just mentioned with mental health, that if you don't deal with the mental health side and other underlying factors, even passing new gun laws, that's really not going to stand much of a chance to overcome these obstacles?
No. How long have we been passing gun laws? Seriously. How long have we been passing gun laws? We've had Ronald Reagan. We've had everybody. Everybody wants to pass gun laws. I just heard the other day the boyfriend loophole and every clever thing they can think of. Well, here's the reality. If a person wants a gun, they're going to get a gun. You can make all the laws you want. Good luck with that. But until we address the issues of human beings, it won't even matter about the gun. Because here's the reality. Nobody should own an AR-15. Nobody should own a semi-automatic rifle of any kind. But we've let them loose. And I don't know how we're going to recall them. But if we took those off the market, if we just made those illegal, we can ban abortion, but we can't ban a semi-automatic rifle. What does that tell you?
Well, I don't think, not to get into too much deep politically correctness, I think this latest bill that was passed, it was more like of a compromise. And Stan, I would like to get your opinion too, because I know you always are against this whole notion of gun reforms or gun legislation as the solution to the problem, just like I guess I just stated. But do you have any questions, Stan, or comments you want to address to Shawanna while we're on the air?
Well, I mean, I'm as always, I'm listening, and I agree with what she's saying. The problem is is in the headspace of folks, and until we address the issues that are plaguing our society and our country, these are going to be the results. I mean, you're looking at the result of a whole lot of things. So you just can't punish people for manifesting the results of the society around you. So if you have poverty, everyone knows what the what the hot plate of poverty cooks up. Everybody knows this.
Right.
There's an expectation. Cities and municipalities plan their police budget around these things. They know exactly, within about 5 to 10 people, how many folks will get murdered every year. I mean, it's absurd that the elected officials play this game come election time every year. So we know. And then if you see the stressors that are put on the broader society, where they've become, they went from paycheck to paycheck to standing in food lines, and in a broader sense, they've become impoverished, and you see the end result: violence, pressures. So we live in a society where we don't deal with the realities of mental health, and this is what we have. So the thing that I like so much about what she's saying, you guys haven't gotten to that part of the conversation yet, but I'm looking forward to it. In that she writes legislation, and it might never be humble. We need more people who write legislation, who know how to write legislation and understand the legislative process, because that, at the end of the day, is what we're dealing with. So,
all right. Well, that sounds like an interesting comment. So you are so far in agreement with our guess.
Absolutely.
And well, Shawanna, this election that's coming up tomorrow, this will be like the final determination for this election for the New York State Assembly district that you're running for?
No, this is the primary, and the general is in November.
Okay. So if you win...
But this determines who goes on until November.
Okay, well, let's wish you the best of luck tomorrow. I didn't even realize it until you told me. This whole thing was timing, Shawanna, because I was working all week trying to find a guest, particularly from Harlem, New York, and you were the only one that had accepted the invitation pretty much right on the spot, and I really appreciate this. But you put some videos. The video that actually drew me to you was you had a casket in a particular area of Harlem. What was the whole purpose behind putting that video together that you did with the casket showing?
So Channel 2 News came out, and Harlem Network News. I put the casket out there because bullets equal caskets. And I understand that my community is visual. If we don't listen, we're not auditory, we're visual. And sometimes you have to meet people where they are and give them the visual. And so they think that this is all a game. They think that this is a storyline from the drill rap or from the PlayStation or the Xbox. So guess what? Here's the storyline. Here's a casket on your block on 135th and 5th Avenue, because you need to understand that these bullets have consequences. And it did what I wanted it to do. It appalled people. It made people come out their homes. It invigorated people. So it did everything it was supposed to do. Make people have a conversation.
Okay.
And I was pleased because I understood that we can't have rallies. We can't keep having marches. It's insane. We're marching for gun violence. We're marching for everything. I said our feet should be tired of marching. And we have to start writing. See, people are writing us into all of this. And we have to write ourselves out. And so if we're not going to do shock value, I did a healing service. Ruth McDaniels from Breaking the Chains of Your Mind, she came out and she prayed because our community needs healing. The saxophonist, because I know the music is soothing, but what is these young people are listening to is not soothing for their soul, and it's causing a problem because they don't know reality from fiction. And so they got this new music I've heard now called drill rap, and it's simply demonic. It is just simply not even fit for consumption of your mind. And yet, drill rap is being funded, and it's not by us. Our demise is not by accident. It is by structure, plan. And we fall into the trap. And so we need a mental reset. And that's why I did this. Because, a lady told me, how dare you put a casket out here? No, how dare you be desensitized to the bullets that equal this casket? Now, go home and tell your children and ask some questions, unlock phones, take doors off hinges. Listen, we got to go back to the basics. Mm-hmm. There's no privacy. I remember my drawers used to get dumped. Doors used to come off hinges. We're so far removed from being the owners and operators of our children. And it's not their fault. Mm-hmm. Because, they say the X, Y generation is lost. Well, who lost them and where did we lose them? Right. No, we failed as adults. We failed as grandparents because they weren't supposed to get this far out of line. We forgot to be the parent. Big Mama is now on fans only. And we've lost our own structure. Mm-hmm. Government cannot raise our children and then they end up in caskets in prison. Mm-hmm. We've got to go back to strong arming our own communities. And that's just the reality. Like, nobody's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. Right. And that's why that casket was out there. And I will continue to do whatever shock value looks like to have a conversation to make people go home and get this together. Mm-hmm. It starts in your home. These guns are in people's homes. And it's not, guns don't kill people. People kill people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so again, if it's not a gun, it'll be something else. Cause I know, Stan, you even always mention that too. If it's not a particular gun, if a person wants to kill someone, if they can't get access to a gun, then they'll try to
You're going to use something else.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So if you outlaw guns, mm-hmm. make sure nobody can get a gun. Someone will take a bomb and blow up a school, blow up a classroom, right? Stick a dynamite. People act as though the issue is the means by which the heinous act is right that is happening. If people take the path of least resistance, so if you raise the resistance on the gun, then they use a knife. They use a baseball bat. They were hanging people from trees. Mm-hmm. They wasn't shooting them. Right. They had guns. They was hanging them. Mm-hmm. Making a statement. So the people who have evil intent will carry out the evil, and so you have to get a hold of people's minds. People have to be aware. They can't be numb. So this is the first time I'm hearing about the coffin. I love that. They should have a coffin. People should put a coffin on the corner, standing up right downtown. Mm-hmm. Put it over there. The Henry and Mothers United Against Violence should take a coffin out there with you. Okay. You see what I'm saying? And now you have people's full attention, because the guns that everyone's clamoring about are, as she said, they're inside people's homes. Mm-hmm. You have control of the guns. Mm-hmm. In some cases with the mass killing. I mean, your son's got a piece of sawed-off shotgun in the bedroom, and that doesn't disturb you. Mm-hmm. So if we as a society are not taking care of our households, there's this theory of protect the nest. If you protect the nest, everything else will take care of itself.
Come on now.
So we're responsible for our children. The government is not responsible for our children. We're responsible for our children. And we have to take ownership of our children back, ownership of our households back, ownership of our neighborhoods back. And need to elect people such as this young lady here who know how legislation works. Because if you ask a lot of people how legislation works, they don't have a clue. And that's how your whole government is based on the legislation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we're the government. Right. We're the government.
Say that. I love the way that you take ownership of we are the government. You take my stance, because at this juncture, We don't have public servants anymore.
Mm-mm.
They want minions. And most of our elected officials, no matter what color they are, don't understand legislation. Period. Mm-hmm. And I'm sad. And I'm currently very sad that people are not even understanding. So, they say the Supreme Court overturned in New York for conceal and carry, right? But what they did not understand was they did it off the back of a law from slavery that said the slave catcher could create a militia to go get the slave and could bear arms. We're not even understanding that part. See, I didn't even care about I cared about the law that they used to take it down. That was significant. That was important. So I needed to understand where the Supreme Court was, and they're still on slavery. Mm-hmm. See, that's a mindset. See, I didn't care about the loopholes. I need to care about what law you used from the George Washington slave era to keep this. We need to teach young people. We don't even need no more laws on the books. We need to go abolish the slave laws and the sundown laws that we already have that are holding us hostage. Mm-hmm. We need to go teach our children how to deconstruct what's already been done. But we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. We're not even telling our young people they can be lobbyists or politicians or humanitarians. Because you are so spot on. This is a mindset problem. And so we understand that the 1994 crime bill is a problem and it has to be dissected. And currently there are people in New York who are working on piece by piece, dismantling it. But we've got to teach the next generation, because all it is from the Constitution. And we understand that the Constitution was written by racists. And I understand that the Supreme Court, the highest law of the land, is racist. Because it has to be. It was founded and written and grounded on racism. If George Washington and Thomas Jefferson were involved, it can't be good for me. Mm-hmm. And so we have to teach young people the construct of law. And it's the one thing we're lacking immensely. We don't know the laws. We're not trying to raise lawyers. And we're always in a legal problem, but we don't have enough people to fight. This is a problem for me. Uh-huh. And so I want to use my candidacy. I want to use this assembly seat to create leaders, legislators, lawyers. This seat is not for me. This seat is to raise up a generation. Uh-huh. This seat is to awaken people. And that's not happened either. We need somebody who wants to be servants in politics, but they want to be celebrities and create minions. We can't get anywhere with that type of behavior. Mm-hmm. So we've got to do something else.
Yes. Shawanna, I mean, what you just stated, knowing the legislation and knowing the laws and even knowing your history to go far back as what you just stated is very relevant and very important, because that seems like that's the whole big solution, not just one part of the legislation that was recently passed. I mean, I don't live in New York, so I don't follow things in New York every single day. I do try to stay abreast, not just in New York, but other places throughout the country, trying to be a guest booker, well, being a guest booker here. One area in New York, your city has a national recognition when your mayor, Eric Adams, is highly visible beyond just New York. He draws a lot of media attention. And then you have the borough president, Mark Levine, who represents, I believe, maybe part of Harlem. Mm-hmm. What is your take so far on how Mayor Eric Adams is running the administration and Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine? is running the borough that he represents?
Eric Adams gets an F. Eric Adams is a failure. He's an epic failure. Any mayor who thinks to re-implement Rudy Giuliani stop and frisk has to be not good for the city and definitely not good for Black people. This man has gutted the mental health budget. He's gutted the education budget. And for the first time in history, we have one of the largest surplus budgets in the country. $8 billion. He has a $200 million rainy day fund. But he's gutted education. And he's gutted mental health services. He's gutted every service that we needed. And he's given more money to NYPD than they probably ever had. So you tell me what he's trying to create. Because I've been always told, if you follow the money, I'll tell you the problem. Well, I followed the money. Now I know the problem. It is the Speaker of the House, Adrian Adams, who is a resident of Brooklyn, to the mayor, Eric Adams. These are my problems because I followed the money. And so you told me without telling me you don't give a damn about New York City. You want to be a celebrity. You want to go to the Met Gala. You want to be on TV. You want to be popular. You said you want to bring back the nightlife to New York City. He just did a thing at Javed Jacobs Center and told everybody smoke out New York. Are you crazy? We need mental health services, social workers, psychiatrists, and trauma-informed therapists on every corner in this city, as well as in every public housing development in this city. We don't need to smoke out anything else. And you want to do stop and frisk. It just doesn't even. You want to increase mass incarceration in this state, triple and double. And this is why you gave more money to truancy officers. This is why you gave more money to police. But you didn't give any more money to healing our community. You didn't give any money to restoration. You gave money for demise and destruction. So absolutely, my mayor gets an F. And my borough president is quieter than cricket. So he just doesn't even count. He makes no waves because he's just invisible. He's just quiet. He's like my organization. He's silent.
I did put a request out to the borough president, and I got a little friction. Go through this source, go through that source. So I'll leave it at that. I mean, I didn't get him on this show, and I'm kind of glad anyway that I was able to get you on instead, to be honest, because you just outlined he's like a cricket. He's very silent. Again, I don't live in New York, so I can't really speak for New York, Stan. We don't live in New York, but she lives there, so she knows.
Well, she's identifying the problem. It's not unique to New York, but New York weighs in real heavy because it's New York, and so we have minions,
right?
I can't think of a better word. Very popular movie too, So we got minions, folk who do what they're told. And the exchange for doing what you're told is to be popular, be seen in the right places, get invited to the right parties. And, I could say this with a fair amount of confidence and without fear of contradiction, because it's evident. Where are the people who need the leadership of those elected, quote unquote, representatives? Where's the deliverable for the people who put them in office? Who need the services. So if these people are elected and they're not delivering to the people who put them in, then why are they there?
Well, see, Stan, and I don't want to take anything away from what Shawanda is here for, but I did send you a link yesterday and a few other people about former Mayor Rudy Giuliani's views on Black Lives Matter. And I asked you the question, Stan, and it may not be appropriate for you to answer now. Maybe it is. Do you agree with what he was saying, that he stated on Face the Nation from 2016 that more media attention is being drawn to Black Lives Matter towards a police officer killing black people than the majority of black people throughout the country? But he outlined Chicago in particular, where a black is killed every 14 hours by another black person.
Rudy Giuliani, along with a lot of other people whose skin is white, have no concept of what they're talking about. This is one reason why we're on the air.
Okay.
They have no concept of what they're talking about because they have no frames of reference. So it'd be tantamount to you and I having a discussion about childbirth.
Okay.
We could talk all we want. We could be as opinionated as we want. We could even be educated. But at the end of the day, we have no frame of reference, and we really don't know what we're talking about because we're men.
Right.
We are not women. We don't know the experience. We know nothing about what we're talking about.
Right.
We have opinions. And unfortunately, there are many white folks who conflate the issue. The issue of police who are criminals with a badge is different from whether or not Johnny is killing, Taquan. That's a whole separate issue. That's not the issue.
Right.
The issue is criminal police officers who've been sanctioned by society to use deadly force are using it in a wrong way. Period. Those who do so should be charged with murder, and they should be dismissed from the force if they've not killed anybody and have that attitude. That's a decision of leadership elected to office. Every mayor can take care of that, and every police chief, but they don't. So Rudy, he's incorrect in that area and other areas too. But to be specific to your question, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And he's sidestepping the issue by talking about the fact that people are killing one another.
Right.
White folks kill each other. Ukrainians, ain't no black folk in Ukraine killing no one. That looked to me like white on white crime. White on white war, white on white crime being facilitated by white leadership in this country to the tune of $40 billion. So anyone offended by that can change channel. But the bottom line is that for them to talk about black on black crime is so absurd that I don't discuss it. That's why you never hear me talk about it. It's an absurd notion. To debate the issue in their presence is to give life to a false narrative. Am I clear?
You're clear with what you answered the question too. Stan,
okay, there we go.
More than anything else. I didn't send you that link, Shawanda, but obviously you lived in New York during former Mayor Giuliani's administration. So I don't know your opinion. You say that you are.
I concur and agree and with everything that your co-host just said, because here's the problem. Anybody who is very clear, Rudy Giuliani is a racist and he can't even be a white supremacist because I tell you, it's crazy, right? But anybody who was in Donald Trump's administration, we already know what that looks like. And so before he was in that administration, he was the mayor. And he caused more harm and more detriment to minorities than anybody else trying to be white, because of that he's not. And he's still a racist. And I'm with the other host. Police killing and black on black crime is not the same conversation. It's not the same narrative. And we can't put them in the same bracket, but they do. So I believe that as a public servant, we have to create legislation as a community and with elected officials saying this must happen, police should have no autonomy. And I think that we need to attach killing to their pensions and their personal life stake bank accounts. And I think we would reduce Black killings. Because I think if they understand there's no autonomy and that you are going to, there will be no grand juries, no, you're going to be charged with murder and you're going to go to the same prisons that you collared and put people in. It would change the narrative, but we're not writing that legislation. And this is insane in this time period that we have more Black elected officials around the country than we've ever had. And we're getting the same results. And I'm tired of people saying, because the president was Black, we couldn't get nothing. The elected officials are Black, we can't get nothing. Oh, no. I'm done with the excuses of accountability of why we can't get what we need. No, we're not working hard enough to get what we need, and we're not demanding anything. And they get because they demand and they come in numbers. And so, no, I absolutely agree with everything you said, because Rudy Giuliani is one of the worst critics to even have a conversation or to speak in the country. Mm-hmm. He's one of the worst. Mm-hmm. And so nothing he says is valid. And most of it is definitely untruthful. Mm-hmm. So absolutely, I concur with the host.
Yeah. I don't even know if it's even necessary for me to send you that link. Because, again, you lived in New York during his administration. You kind of got an understanding of what he is about. So, and that was a tape from 2016 anyway. It wasn't even a new tape.
He's worse today.
He's worse today, okay. And everything. But one thing that you are definitely advocating as a community activist, I want to get back to Silent Cry Inc. is an organization, because you stated off of the air, whether you become elected New York Assembly person for the 70th District or not, you're going to still continue to run Silent Cry Inc. And,
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And one thing you didn't mention off of the air, if you don't mind me saying, you are doing a lot of what you're doing for your children, but I guess other children, because your two children love Harlem, New York, and they want to be in Harlem, New York. And honestly, I was going to at first make this show just about Harlem, but your issues kind of outweigh how I kind of wanted to direct this type of topic. But what is it like about Harlem that you think your children and other children still love? I mean, it's a lot of misconceptions about the city, but there has to be something, because a lot of people are still in Harlem.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know what? You love the fact that you can just always go outside. Mm-hmm. Something will always be open. And for Harlem is only 50 blocks. People don't even get it. Mm-hmm. And so, like, who lives in this 50 blocks. Even with all the people, there are some places and there's some pockets that still feels like you want to be where everybody or somebody knows your name. Mm-hmm. And there's some pockets that still feels like that. Mm-hmm. When you can go down the street and people are saying, hey, hi, how are you? And it still feels good. Even with gentrification and it looking like 34th Street, but the blocks are not. And the blocks are still the blocks. Mm-hmm. And the blocks are still doing what they do. And so I think that's the part that they like. I think that they like the fact that there's so much activity here. There's so much activity that you don't miss the Disneyland or you don't miss the Magic Mountain. You don't miss, because it's always something. It's a play. It's the park. It's wide closed off streets. It's always life. It's always just amazing, and you never know what you'll get. You never know what you'll go outside to see in Harlem. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the buy-in. And I don't want that to leave. I don't want them to not have that. And so for them to not be able to lose what they've been accustomed to, that means that I have to fight harder. That means that I have to work overtime, not just for my two, but for all of them. Because I understand that if I don't secure the person who shoots or the person who's disenfranchised the most, then my children can't enjoy the summer. My children can't enjoy outside, nor everybody else's children. And we will not be held captive and commandeered by those who are impoverished in their minds. Impoverishment is not a physical thing. It's a mentality. I think impoverishment is a mindset. And so Silent Cry is going to be here because I was here before I ran for office, and I'm going to be here after because the stake is too high. It's too high. When I think that my son can't go to the gym, or he can't go to school, or he can't go where he needs to go, or I'm going to stay outside. Because what we learned in most shootings is it's always the person who was going somewhere. Like Darius, like Junior in the Bronx. It's always the kid who has a future.
Right.
And so we got to secure everybody's children for the sake of our own. And we're not there. You know, we're so, we've got so much and we've come so far that we went nowhere. We used to be a community. Now it's my four and no more. Oh, no. It better be the masses so your four can grow up. So we've got to get back to where we came from. And you know, evolution must happen, and I get it. But I understand, I wish I was born in the time where I actually saw our communities be communities, because we're drifting and we're losing. And it's not the gun laws. It's not the laws. It's the family breakdown. And then the laws come because daddy's gone. Mama got welfare, can't have a man. And it's just systemic. And we have got to get ourselves out of this rut. And we got to stop making excuses, and we got to start making demands. And I don't mean march nowhere. You don't have to leave your house to write. And I think as communities, we need to start writing. As communities, listen, everything used to be done in the church. It was the everything house. Now, they could all burn down because they serve no purpose. Every church has a building fund, it builds nothing. The doors are closed. Like, we need to be homeschooling our children in the churches. We need to go back to writing policy and legislation in the churches. We need to be in church like we trying to get free in the Underground Railroad, and we need to get this together. And we need to go back to the basics. Everybody's on their smartphone and everybody's dumbed down. The TV is smart. The phone is smart. We becoming stupid. And it's insane. Everything is at our fingertips, but we don't know the law. Everything is at our fingertips and we don't know our history. Everything is and we just don't know. We galvanize at the shoe store. You know, I heard the gentleman say the 4th of July is coming. And I love that people want to barbecue and eat and laugh. And I need to understand, what are you laughing about? Why are you happy? We're not free. That's not my holiday. And I'm just not even going to debate that. But what are we doing? So we're independent. I'm a slave. I'm a slave. I can't eat the barbecue right now because we're at war. We have no time to picnic. We need to figure out policy and legislation before we end up on a literal, the way the Supreme Court is going, new plantation. We don't have time. They have time because they wrote laws to inundate us until today. We got to go write ourselves out of this. We have other problems,
but
that don't include eating barbecue.
But
we've got to get this together.
But the first step tomorrow is this election that you're having for the New York 70th District and Assembly. And people do have the ability to go out there and cast their vote. and this is for the Democratic primary side, as you mentioned earlier. Okay. So the numbers, I mean, what's the voting padding numbers in New York? I mean, is it...
You know what's so sad? The district is like 200,000 strong, right? This lady has won by 4,000 votes because people don't come out to vote. 200,000 people. And nobody turns out to vote.
Right.
And what they don't know is they show up for the president, right? And he's a figurehead. But the local elected officials, your judges, your assembly people, your congressional people, your governor, these people are important. And they are dictating your future, your grandchildren. You need to come out in groves. I mean, I don't care who the president is. I care who the judge is who's sentencing our children. I care who the assembly person is who's writing the laws and balancing the checkbook. I care who the city council is who's giving out money to grassroots organizations or not. I care who my governor is, who has veto power. Like we got to understand where the power lies. And because we don't understand power structure, we don't understand who's important. And this race tomorrow is everything. We have to come out and we have to vote, or we have no right to complain about anything. Right. Everything rests for New York City on tomorrow.
Now, when you say 200,000, is this 200,000 registered voters or just 200,000 people? That's
200,000 registered voters, and they don't vote.
They don't vote, yeah.
They don't vote. And so I think that we're removed from Fannie Lou Hamer. I think we're removed from Shirley Chisholm. I think we're removed from every ancestor because nobody is talking about how vital this is. Church has stopped being the epicenter of what's important because they're too busy trying to get profit over people. And we need to go back to telling people where we can get the people in mass, what is most important for our lives. It is the vote. It is the vote. It is who is in office because it determines how we get to move. And so I've been telling people, they say, what are you going to do for us? I'm not going to do anything for you. See, I have no promises for you because elected officials have become demigods. No. All I have for you is what are we collectively going to do together to fix this? And I said, I understand that's shocking because you've never been invited to the table. I said, an elected official is a servant of the people. So me, Shawanna, am not going to do anything for you. What are we going to do collectively and what are you going to help do for yourself? So I really want to be in office because I want an open door transparency office and I want to teach community legislation. We have to get somebody who wants to do work and not just be a figurehead or a minion and a celebrity. We've got to get people to run who want to do real things.
Well, again,
and after you two gentlemen talk, hell, y'all need to run for something. We're in Connecticut. You need to run for city council, something, because you have too much conversation and knowledge for the next generation not to have it too.
Well, Shawanna, our host, Stan McCauley, and then you can speak for yourself. You ran for mayor here 3 different times. She's not aware of that. I never ran for no public office. I supported your elections. I was a volunteer, maybe in and out. But she just mentioned city council person. You know, you're a person that's more mentally, I think, cut out for mayor. You don't have the tolerancy, as you mentioned many times, for city council. I don't want to speak for you, but I just want to address what she just said, that we need to run for something, but she doesn't realize you ran for mayor 3 different times here in Hartford.
Well, I understand the sentiment that she's saying, that, you know, but yeah. Well, I've given it my 3 shots. At 62 now, I am. Okay. I probably not, you know, and it's hard to win against the machine. Hartford has less population than Harlem, which is a neighborhood.
Right.
Our whole city. So, you know, we have 50,000 registered voters, of which very few will come out. So you can win an election in Hartford with 7,000, 8,000 votes. And but you're running against the machine, and the party runs the city. The party runs the politicians. So we live on a plantation.
Absolutely.
That is controlled by party bosses. We are not free. We are loose.
Okay.
So you're escaped.
You could be my friend.
There's a difference between being free and escape, because they're coming for you.
Right.
Yes.
So, as long as the compliant few get through, if you comply, there's a seat for you. But the minute you start getting uppity and start asking questions and upset the apple cart and the party bosses don't like what you're doing, you'll find out who's in charge.
Come on.
They won't string you up, but they will definitely, put the kibosh on you
out.
And so, if you speak like that, there's not a lot of chance that you're going to be put into certain positions. Because folk go along to get along, and they're minions, and they want to be popular. She's hit the nail right on the head. I mean, I agree with her 100%.
Good. Well, again, Shawanna, a real important election upcoming tomorrow, and then with your organization, Silent Cry Inc. is going to continue to do what you're doing. And again, we might have lost a little track off of the reentry system program. One thing I do want to state, when you was mentioning about the mental state of mind and I guess the things you have to be adjusted to when you're being released from prison, you also have to know how to put yourself in a position not to get into, what do you want to classify it as, the criminal justice system. One person used to outline it here locally. It's not, we should get out of this mindset of giving the criminal justice system. He said it was white male oppression, but let's just say legally and technically, it's the criminal justice system that you fall into. Because usually once you fall into the criminal justice system, when you lose certain rights, that you can't vote, you can't live in certain places, there's a lot of restrictions that happen to you. But you, as a person that was incarcerated, you know that firsthand, but you still know what you can do and what you what you are capable of doing. So we don't want to use the criminal justice system as a means to feel like it's over and you can't do anything. But you do got to realize you're going to have some tremendous barriers once you get into
there's
that.
barriers, and I have them. But guess what? I won't succumb to them. And that's the difference. And everybody doesn't come home with that mindset because it takes work.
Right.
And it takes tenacity to say, I won't be a slave. Like you will not commandeer me with this title called felon, and I'm gonna do. And that takes a lot, and everybody doesn't have it. And so what people don't understand either is that the data, the real data, shows that about 50% of people who are incarcerated are not guilty. Let's deal with that.
Right.
That's a whole nother show, another day. So see, as African Americans and minorities and Latino exes, right?
Yes.
Listen, our DNA, they've stored it in the milk cartons. They're ready to pull us out at any point and say it's you. And if we just watch the Supreme Court, they just did a ruling that said innocence is not enough to get free. And if you haven't looked it up, I need you to look that up. Supreme Court, innocence is not enough. They just ruled on a case where the man is innocent. He's been proven innocent by every organization in and out of the United States. Guess what? The Supreme Court ruled that his innocence is not enough and that he's going to get this death penalty, and he's innocent. This is where we're going in this country.
Well, one thing I know, you say that many people, like you say 50% of the people that's, I guess, incarcerated or have yes. One thing I always looked at, and thank God I haven't fallen into the criminal justice system, but I can relate to some degree about it because I know a lot of people that have. Isn't the plea bargain system one of the problems too that you?
Yes, it is. It is the problem.
Okay.
It is prevalent, but that one, the worst one. Because guess what? You tell people, take this or we'll give you this. And people want to go home. And people who are innocent just, they don't know. And like I said, we don't have access to attorneys. Everybody's running on public defenders.
Yes.
They work for the system that's trying to imprison you. They're not for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got to understand what this looks like, what this terrain is. We have to create lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
We have to create legal systems. We don't have them. And we don't have the money to retain good representation.
Right. Because usually what you're just saying, you get arrested for a particular crime, you go to court, and then it'll be thrown at you, well, if you are found guilty and you go to trial and you lose, you could end up doing 20 to 25 years. Mm-hmm. But if you take the plea bargain, you can get out maybe 2 to 3 years. So the average person is going to become scared and saying, well, I can't afford a lawyer. The odds of me beating this case is going to be very slim. So I might as well just take the plea bargain, do the 2 to 3 years, and then hopefully I get my life back on track. But you're saying we need to examine this whole plea bargain system, or the Alfred doctrine, or whatever that they call it, but it's classified as the plea bargain system, and say this is the problem, that this is really contributing to the high numbers of people getting in, I guess, falling into a prison. Because if you take something to trial and you're able to win, I guess you don't have a felony. I mean, you are not.
You don't have a felony. You get to go home.
Go home. But the intimidation factor is I can't afford a lawyer. So the public defendant is not going to go out of his way to really fight my case for me the way it needs to be. So I get scared and nervous and just say, hey, I got to accept this and
I'll take the plea
bargain.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. And New York has some high numbers, I know, with our court systems, very high when you get into that. What we can do is, after the election, later on in the year, I can re-invite you, because you really bring a lot to the table. I think Stan is in agreement with just about everything that you stated, and I can't wait to really see how this election is going to go tomorrow. Even though I don't live in New York, I'm not a New York registered voter, so I have no really say in what goes on down there. But I really appreciate you. I mean, if you have more time and Stan you feel is appropriate, I mean, we can still let you stay on, but we've covered a lot. Is there anything else that you would like to address about some issues that you are looking to change or fight for?
Education.
Mm-hmm.
I think the plight of education for our Black and brown children is in danger. I think the fact that we're gutting education budgets just across the country. My sister is a teacher in California, and teachers are working with no money, no supplies, no anything. And this is what's going to lead our country into the next century. This is an atrocity. And so we can no longer depend on school to educate when they have no budgets, just across the country. And we have to educate our own children. Like, school is 6.5 hours, but home is where they learn the most. And we've got to restructure education so our children flourish. We as African Americans are behind on math, English, and science. Mm-hmm. We've got to figure this out collectively so our children are competitive and compete. And we're not doing it. We as parents, we as Black society are failing in this aspect because we're worried about economics and paying bills. But guess what? Our children won't be able to figure it out because they won't be educated enough. And I really want to get in the forefront of this education battle.
Mm-hmm. By you being, if you are elected an assembly person, would you be able to make some laws change towards
I'm going to task on the education battle if I become the assemblywoman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm definitely going to do legislation. Because guess what? If we watch the Supreme Court ready to roll back, what are they going to do with Brown versus Board of Education? You think they're not coming for that with these 6 people?
Mm-hmm.
We have to be proactive instead of reactive. And I want to invigorate the entire Black nation to become proactive instead of reactive. Stop waiting for people to do something and so you can scream back. We know what the problems are. We see where they're going for those of us who are actually paying attention. We have to wake up the rest of the sleep people.
Well, again, I mean, the whole purpose, I mean, was to really talk about your life and your background and what you're planning to do, and then talk about Harlem. Again, I can wait later to talk about Harlem the way I really want to.
Absolutely.
And again, you're very passionate, very sincere. It comes across. I don't think this is a front, and I think you're real, and you don't have a problem speaking your mind, and you don't bite your tongue. And I don't know if everybody in your hometown that's in the office really likes that approach.
No, they don't.
They don't.
Guess what? It's okay. I like I said, I can concur with the host, your other host, because people want people who get along. No, my life is at stake.
Right.
And I'm running like it's 16, 19. I don't have time to go along to get along. We need to make a tidal wave at this point. And so, like I'm going out to campaign right now when we're finished, because it's hard to change people's mindset when they've been accustomed to a thing for 18 years in a seat. It's some people that people will vote for all over this country, even if they were dead. And it's not that the person did anything for them. And so I'm trying to change the narrative, because first I have to change people's mind. And that's a hard sell. And I'm going out again today because everything rests on tomorrow. Not for them, not for me, for my community. I'm going to be this person no matter what. The opportunity for me to run is not for me, it's for you. It's for our children. And so I have to go convey what that looks like.
Stan, you have any other questions or comments you want to address to our guests this morning while we on the air?
I'm looking forward to her coming back after the elections. So we
can
me
too.
Continue. I mean, I agree with her. I agree with her 100%. And best of fortune to you. And
thank you so much.
All you can do is do what you're doing and then keep going.
That's it. That's it.
Just keep going. Amen.
I thank you guys for this interview, and you guys have an amazing day.
All right. God bless you. It was our pleasure, and I wish you the best of luck tomorrow with your election, and we'll talk again maybe before the November election, one way or the other, and have you back on for like a follow-up.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Blessings.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Great interview.
Yeah, she was great and dynamite. She reminds me of that Barlow, one of the Barlows here in Hartford. I don't know if you picked that up. Shawanda, yeah. She kind of reminds me in some areas of her.
She does have some kind of like a Shawanda Barlow in her. Yeah.
Or just some similarities. I don't know if you.
I could see. Well, let's take a short break. Stick and stay. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back, my friends.
All right.
Every bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their charity. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now, more than ever, you need to make your vote count. Declare your independence from the plantation of party politics and free your political mind.
That should play one more time. Selector. Play it
Every
again.
bad political decision is made by a politician elected to office. So if you think your vote doesn't matter, just remember this. There are people sitting with politicians in a back room making deals about your future, making policies about your children, making decisions about your neighborhood. To them, you are just a vote. You are not their charity. You are not their cause. You are just a vote. Elections have consequences, and if you don't vote, you are actually voting to keep these people in power to work against you. Now, more than ever, you need to make your vote count. Declare your independence from the plantation of party politics and free your political mind.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There he is. The corporate mascot, Ralph the Squirrel. Part of the Squirrel Underground. The spy network delivering information here to Central Control. Our agents are everywhere. When you see a squirrel, understand and know they're not just squirrels. They're part of the Squirrel Underground. Old school spycraft. Burying information. Spycraft in the acorns. Picked up by other agents, moved around, hidden in trees, oak trees and things like that. And then at the end of the day, all that information is fed here to our headquarters, where we can disseminate it, dissect it, and distribute it to the needful parties that matter most. It's Morning Talk. I'm here with Jonathan Small. We're here every Monday. It's raining outside. Ugh. How depressing is that? We need the rain though, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to stop around noontime, just a few hours. So
Okay.
It's going to be cool most of the day, but humid, but it's cool. So, 76 degrees and humid. That's not too bad. It's not that hot today. So again, I guess there's some issue. I don't know if there's any important issues this week. I'm just trying to stay abreast of anything that you think is relevant that's upcoming. I can't think of anything. I know their election she just mentioned in New York, but we don't have no elections.
Not this week.
Not this week that I could think of. So it's kind of really hard to say. But like I said, I do try to stay abreast nationally with different issues and trying to always find a guest throughout the country.
A great interview. Good guess.
Brings a lot to the table. And again, like I said, the whole purpose really was to talk about Harlem, but she just outweighed what I was looking to talk about. And I have a guest in the entertainment field that's going to really be interesting, I think, to talk about Harlem. So that's why I wasn't really that trying to push so much what I want to really talk about, because I figure her background would definitely be a good focal point of the show, and then just wait till the next guest comes up to really talk about Harlem in many different areas, not just one particular area. It's really they classify it as the Black Mecca of the world. You always hear Atlanta and DC as Black Meccas, but they say Harlem really is the Black Mecca, or had that historical view as being the Black Mecca of the world, from culture, history, a lot of famous people, man, that's from Harlem. So really looking forward to that. And now that I know we're not doing this show next week, I can just kind of maybe set that up going into the following week or a little bit after. But again, I guess she's real passionate, Shawanna, about what she's fighting for, and got to get elected. But she still says she's going to continue with her organization, Silent Cry Inc. And she mentioned that we should run for office. But you do a lot. You personally stand with the network here, and then your role with the African American Alliance. That may not be the same thing as an elected official position, but you still are having a big impact in some areas. So I guess that was maybe a constructive criticism, maybe, that we should get involved in elected office. Or
I don't think she was criticizing. I'm saying I think that she's
encouraging, maybe.
It was encouraging
right. To get involved in office. But elected office, it's kind of like you got to be all in, or you're not really in. Is it?
You're all in. If you're going to run for office, you are all in. It's like jumping out of a plane.
There's no in between. You got to be.
There's no in between. You jump out the plane, and the election is over when you land. That's the analogy. It's right. You jump out a plane, and then there you go. You go to pull that chute, you find out it doesn't work. Now you got to get that emergency chute out. Right. Anything can happen along the way. You jump out the plane, and lo and behold, you could see that you're falling, and there's a flock of birds coming. Anything can happen, and it's a long way down. It takes like 9 months, 12 months to hit the ground. And you want to make sure you don't hit the ground too fast, or you'll die.
Right.
And some people don't make it. Some people die in transit to the ground.
You always bring things back to flying. Kevin Brookman said that a long time ago about you on We the People. Everything you bring up flying a lot in many different levels of conversation.
It's a good analogy. I think people. I like to use analogies that people can understand and wrap their head around.
To think about that.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, if it's something you really want to do and you really believe in it, some people got different views on politics. They say they can't deal with politics. Some people, and I think the numbers kind of show, with the low percentage of registered voters voting.
It's by design.
It's by design.
It's by design. If you are disengaged from the political process, then you are not a threat politically. Period.
Right.
The fewer people vote, the more the incumbent is favored to win. They don't want people turning out to vote. Because when people vote in mass, change happens. And the status quo doesn't want anything to change. They want to maintain power. The only thing that the king has to worry about is someone dethroning the king. So the king's number one job is staying in power. People in power want to stay in power.
But people got to realize this, not just say it's your civic duty, but it's a very important, a very important decision that you can make to make a difference. Sometimes it doesn't really matter. People will say it doesn't matter who you vote for as long as you vote. But I think it does matter who you vote for. You want to vote for someone that you believe in, someone that has your best interests. So to say that it doesn't really matter who you vote for, it is important that you vote. Like I told you before, Stan, what I would do if I see two candidates that I'm not in favor for, if it's allowed for me to be able to do this, I go say that I register, say that I came here to vote, show my identification. I go inside that little poll booth, and I just won't check off a lever for that particular candidate. Let's say candidate A and candidate B is running. I don't see any candidate that I'm in favor for. So I just don't pull down the lever for candidate A or B. So does they now take my vote and give it to someone else, or is it just not being cast?
No, your vote just doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
Right.
So is that like I never even came to vote when I do that?
It's as though you didn't go to vote.
But the numbers do show up that I showed up to vote, though. I just didn't see anybody that
you showed up to vote, but there's going to be one vote short at the toll relative to relative to the number of people that came to vote, there's going to be one less vote cast.
Right.
So they don't know who that was, but they know that someone went into the booth and did not vote. So the question is, did they not know how to operate the machine? Could they read the poll? Why didn't they vote becomes a big mystery now. And, you know, at the end of the day, the question of why is just that. But at the end, it doesn't matter. The number of votes were.
Right.
So it's like if you went out to dinner, another analogy. If you went out to dinner and you were with 10 people and folks said, well, what do you want to eat? I don't know, so I'm not going to make a decision. Fine. The other 9 will decide for you.
All right.
Now, you don't have to eat what they got, but whatever you wanted isn't on the menu or it's not being presented on the table because you didn't ask for anything. So you have to take what everyone else has. So more than a civic duty, this is the best way for you to get what you want. So rather than to vote for no one, write somebody in. Write in a name.
Yeah, but when you go inside the poll booth, you're not able to do that right then and then, though. You just can't put. You can put somebody's name when you go inside the poll booth.
You can write a name. You can write in a candidate. Yep.
But you still can't vote for that candidate. You can only vote
writing
for
their name in. That is the vote.
Oh, okay.
A write-in.
I never heard of that before.
Yeah,
you
we
can just
get
go inside the poll booth.
I want to write in a name for a candidate. I need a pencil or a pen or whatever the case is. Oh well, that's at the booth. Just write the name in that you want and circle that. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're not going to take that as a candidate that they're going to cast a vote for. If I go inside and write a name,
you're not gonna. Your candidate's not gonna win. But you wrote their name in.
Okay.
There's plenty of people get like 3 or 4 votes or 100 votes.
All right.
They're not gonna win.
Right. But that's who I decided that I want to vote for.
Right. But you cast your vote in for.
All right. I'll do that the next time. Right.
So let's say 1,000 people were voting in a town, and everyone wrote in different candidates, but no one cast a vote for the actual candidate. That would be an overwhelming rebuke of that person. They'd rather have Donald Duck, Minnie Mouse, Bugs Bunny, Tobar the Eighth Man, Aquaman, Marine Boy, Spider-Man, than the guy running. Than Larson.
And Congressman Larson is running again. She mentioned about 18 years. He's been in office a long time, Congressman Larson. So I think he's going to win in a landslide because he's well known.
Yeah, no doubt he's going to win.
I don't think there's no chance this other person is going to defeat Congressman Larson.
Very unlikely
to do that. So that's kind of a slam dunk.
He's solid. He's solid in a solid state. He's in a blue state in the most democratic of districts in the country. The first congressional district of Hartford, Connecticut.
Right. And he's been on AccessTV.org network several different times.
Several times.
So yes. he's known. He knows this network. He's well known in this, this area to do that.
His office is 3 blocks from here.
Okay. That's real close. Three blocks.
3 blocks.
In walking distance.
Right.
To get there. Yeah, other than that, I mean,
I don't want to put him in danger, so I won't walk through the arrival departure scenario. But he's real close to here.
Right. And then he has his other office in Washington D.C. too.
I don't know anything about that office.
You don't know about that office?
I know about the one over here.
Yeah. They have 2 offices.
Yeah. I've never been to the Washington office.
I've never been in either, but I'm just saying, he probably spends more time in Washington D.C. than he does here. He has. I mean, I don't know. I'm just assuming, but he has a staff that's very well, knowledgeable here that we can always get information to. So it works out fine. Well, again, you stated on the air that you don't agree from what Rudy Giuliani stated on Face the Nation. I mean, is he total? But it's statistically he's not wrong though. More, and you said don't get caught up into the numbers of black people because you say in Ukraine it's white people being killed there
by white people.
But that's a war. Well, I guess we have a war on our streets too. So
it's a conflict, at a large scale. So the conflict is classified as a war. I'm sure the Ukrainians think it's a war. The Russians do not consider this a war. They consider it a special military operation.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, I mean, the only thing I will say about Giuliani's administration, and it was stated that it started it under the Dave Dinkins administration, is the numbers of crime, homicides, and crimes dropped tremendously. It started it statistically under the Dave Dinkins administration. And then when Giuliani got elected, the numbers of homicides and crime came down. Check the data. Just don't take my word for it. Look at the homicide rates. Let's say in New York City in 1990 to 1993 or 2, then, because he was mayor from 93 to about 2008, something in that era. Look at the homicide rates and the 90s under his administration, and look at it before, and now look at the homicide rates in New York City now. And they've had other mayors too. If the numbers are coming down in homicides and murder and hard, crimes, serious crimes, and you're using some tactics that people say is not right, stop and frisk and other methods that he was doing, particularly against black people. Now, he came back and said most black people are committing the crime in New York City by other black people. So, of course, that's going to give me the means that I have to go utilize the stop and frisk method, because who's committing the crimes in Bronx, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, Harlem, Queens, like that? It could be a racist statement that when you come off and say that, but if you got the numbers to back it up, if you're saying in Chicago, who's killing who for the homicide numbers that's taking place in Chicago, it's by mostly black and brown Hispanic people in numbers. And if you as a white person say that, it can come across as a racist statement.
Well, to make a statement based on the fact, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. To conflate homicide rate in Chicago or New York, where the individual that was murdered by someone black, mm-hmm. has nothing to do with the police officer who shoots somebody mm-hmm. and gets away with it. It has nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. They're two separate subjects.
Right.
Most black people eat at McDonald's in Harlem. Now, let me repeat. Most of the people that eat at McDonald's in Harlem are black.
Mm-hmm. So what does that really mean, though?
That's what the statistics show. But right. Then most of the people there are black.
Are black, right?
Most people that get parking tickets are black. Most of the people who graduate high school there are black. Mm-hmm.
Because the majority of people that
live there are black.
Right.
So I mean, it stands to reason that if only black people live here, then black people are the ones who are benefiting, and black people are the ones who are not benefiting. The ones who are making right decisions and wrong decisions.
Mm-hmm. But I don't see where the solutions, other than the fact, and again, it's how you feel about how crime is being addressed or how somebody is dealing with crime. If you're getting tough on crime, as some people say you have to do, so you say community policing, we got to police our own community as the better approach. So again, I don't know. I think the numbers kind of should outweigh the approach. If the numbers are coming down, if people feel more safe, again, there may be some constitutional rights when you stop and frisk somebody. I pull you off of the street and frisk you down because you look like a suspect that could be able to commit a crime. So I'm violating some of your rights, right? If the police pull you over and just check you down and saying,
if there's justifiable reason or rationale, you're given a lawful order by a police officer. That's one thing. But if every day you walk down the street and you get pulled over, that we're getting into something different. And then now we find out that not only am I being stopped, but you too. And not just me and you. Every black man on the street is being stopped. This is a problem.
Right.
There's nothing to justify the fact that we are an imminent danger. So so what you're saying really is that all black men are inherently dangerous, like bears in the woods. Therefore, we must do everything we can to make sure that we are going to make sure they're not carrying guns. Now, if I was to suggest that we stop and frisk every white child in suburban school, it would be absurd.
Right.
But we know statistically that white kids is killing folk in school.
Yeah.
The numbers are there.
The numbers are there. That's the thing.
That's the numbers. You can't argue with the numbers.
Right.
But it's a funny thing about numbers. Numbers used to back up the facts I want to present. The fact of the matter is that most white kids are not killing other kids in school. The fact of the matter is most black people are not killing one another.
Right.
But that's not what they want to talk about. So if you have black people that are killing other black people, what organization do we have that is sanctioned by law that can intervene in that process? Be the police department.
Right.
Now, we can't do this with the budget that we have. We need more money. So it becomes a good revenue generator. Because if you really want to stop this kind of crime, then you go to the root of the problem.
Right.
And you get rid of the problem. But there is no effort to get rid of the problem. There's only an effort to address the manifestation of the problem. Like drug therapy. We're going to deal with medicating the symptom, but we're not going to get rid of the problem. So if you have a migraine headache, well, I won't use migraine because that's a different subject. But if you have a headache and we give you a couple of aspirin and the headache goes away, then you've dealt with the symptom. But what's causing the headache?
Yeah.
We don't deal with that. And the same thing with this crime stuff. So Giuliani is conflating the issue. There are two separate issues. If you want to deal with them, you have to deal with them separately. And it's a good sidestep scapegoat for people who don't want to deal with the reality of crooked cops, crooked, criminal, murderous cops.
Right.
And cops know who the crooked, criminal, murderous cops are.
But the argument, if you go, put it like this, Stan, if you go to Chicago, a high crime area, South Side, West Side, other areas in Chicago, you're going to be more probably as an outsider worried about the gangs in Chicago than you are the police. Let's say you live in Chicago. Who are you going to be more concerned with? The police killing you or a gang killing you?
I'm not concerned with either one of them killing me. Me, I can't. For me, that's me. That I can only.
Or
speak for
being
myself.
a victim of crime. I mean,
I'm not really concerned about being a victim of crime. Not in Chicago,
right?
Or anywhere. Now, if I go to some place that's a known gang hideout, where there's a lot of gang activity, and they're dropping off money from a drug run, there's a fair chance I might get shot.
Yeah.
Because I don't really have any business being there.
Well, again, I'm not an expert on Chicago. I've not been there. I don't know the whole makeup, so it might be wrong for me to give my opinion. But I think there's many areas, whether it's, I guess, a gang area can be certain parts of the city.
Well, there's a place. There got to be somewhere where
Yeah.
where the gangs are. I would imagine there's some place where the mafia is, where
Right.
organized crime meets.
Excuse me. I had a relative that a few years ago was taking trips through her job, and her company said, because they had to visit Chicago, they said when you go to Chicago, make sure that you stay in a group of people and don't get outside of the boundaries where you're going to. Be very careful about going to Chicago. I heard another source.
She was there with her company.
She was there with a company. I guess they went with
That sounds like company, wanting to protect their employees 101.
Right. Be very careful.
Right. That doesn't mean that Chicago is inherently dangerous.
Well,
because if I was the employee and the company gave me a stern warning like that, it would lead me to believe that the company has foreknowledge of my potential harm being in the city. And if I trip and fall, I'm going to hold the company liable because they knew the danger before they sent me there. And though I was with the group, if anything happens to me with that stern warning, I'm going to ask them, why did we go here?
Right.
Why didn't we do the whole meeting by Zoom? You put all of us at risk. You knew what the danger was, or you wouldn't have given us this warning.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I expect companies to do that kind of stuff. If they thought it was dangerous, they wouldn't send you.
They sent her. They just told her to be careful and stay in a group. Don't get outside of the area where we're sending you to go to. So if we're sending you downtown Chicago, stay as a group. Stay in that area.
Right, stay together.
Stay together.
Sound
and
like
stay in
you
that
go
group.
like children. You take a group of first graders to the circus.
Exactly. So you don't even.
Now, children, we want you to walk in pairs. Don't go outside of the circle. If you don't see somebody, that's a problem. All right, everybody has their buddy. Stay with each other.
Yeah. Chicago is a dangerous city, Stan.
Chicago can be a place where you could get hurt if you don't mind your business and don't have situational awareness. You can't walk around Chicago like, you're in Disney World and just, skipping through town and oblivious to things and open your wallet and count your $100 bills on the subway. These are things you might not want to do. But it's no more dangerous for the person coming there than the person that lives there.
Yeah.
Why is it inherently dangerous to be in Chicago?
Because when you hear reports of innocent people, and I know it happens outside of Chicago, stray bullets, it's a very alarming. They just recently.
Yeah, but that's not everybody, Jonathan. The chances of that happening are like getting hit by lightning, and people do get hit.
People do get hit by
lightning.
So you don't think it's a good reflection to put that on Chicago as a dangerous city because of the numbers that takes place of crime? You don't?
No, like Daryl Roberts said, most of the people in Chicago that are harmed by these things are victims of their lifestyle.
And some innocent people, like you have anywhere
Innocent
else.
people get killed by cars. Guy graduated from high school, 17 years old, was in a car with somebody in a car accident, and he died. It's all over the news.
All right.
Innocent people get killed in car accidents every day.
Right.
We don't stop driving. People are not scared to drive. If they take that same logic and apply it to driving, people would stop driving. They would never drive again.
Right.
Because driving is dangerous, isn't it? It's the most dangerous thing you could do. Yet people do it every day.
Well, this college basketball player that was recently killed in Harlem, he actually went back to his hometown. I guess they had like a cookout or something, and something got out of control. Drive-by shootings, and then he ended up getting shot in the
Most
chest.
unfortunate.
So the assumption is, and I didn't even ask my guest this morning about, do she feel safe in Harlem? She outlined that there's some serious issues, and she did state that her children love Harlem. She pointed out a lot of good things about Harlem.
She's running for office.
She's running for office.
I
yes.
think she feels safe in Harlem.
Feels safe. So
she said that you want to be someplace where everybody knows your name.
I guess it's one
and a sense of community, a sense of feeling, belonging, and appreciation by folks around you. Right. I think she's likes Harlem.
But I guess it's one thing, Stan, to be cautious and be careful more than, let's say, being turned off and saying I don't want nothing to do with this place. Those are two different ways.
Those are individual decisions that people have to make on their own. Whatever decisions they make, I'm good with.
Don't businesses make reinvestment decisions and disinvestments too on certain areas of our country? If this is a high risk area, high crime risk area, I don't feel it's needy for me to invest my business.
Then don't invest your business.
But isn't that a big problem that you find?
I don't think it's a problem. I think businesses can be anywhere they want, just like people can move anywhere they want. I'm not going to stop time because Lego decides they don't want to put their factory back in Enfield. Mm-hmm. And Connecticut got to do better if they want. That's all. Mm-hmm. We should stop life because a company might decide they may not want to come here. There's a lot of you can't live life worrying about what someone might do if this and that. You can't live life that way.
It's not about living life. It's about knowing how things affect a community. If you have disinvestment, doesn't that play a role on a community with your tax base, with your
It should play a role, but is the community engaged enough to make the changes necessary to change the dynamic to keep the company here? Mm-hmm. Knowing has little purpose. Mm-hmm. If people ain't gonna do something about what they now know. Mm-hmm. Otherwise you could talk ad nauseum about all the stuff we need to know. Mm-hmm. And what happens if the moon loses its orbit? I mean, we should know that. Mm-hmm. It's not that we can do anything about it, but it would be good to know.
Right. So knowledge is one thing, but using your knowledge is the real power. Knowledge alone is not power. Then using the knowledge that you have is the real sense of power.
Oh, now we're talking. Mm-hmm. See, there's a difference between knowledge and wisdom. A lot of people are knowledgeable, but they lack wisdom. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are knowledgeable, but they lack integrity. A lot of people are knowledgeable, but they're criminals. Mm. So how one uses one's knowledge is very, very important. Sometimes people are knowledgeable and they don't have the capacity to do the change. They don't have the resources. Mm-hmm. So, knowing is one thing. With much knowledge comes much sorrow.
Well, here's a scenario. Reverend Henry Price. Maybe many people out there in this community know him. Some people probably don't know him. And one time I asked Reverend Henry Price, because he worked with a lot of people in the reentry system programs and a lot of men that's coming out trying to get their life back on track. He may not remember me asking him this. This was, I guess, a while ago. I had asked him, why don't you try, because Reverend Henry Price became very successful. I forgot exactly what job he was doing. I think it was consultant. But I asked Reverend Henry Reverend Henry Price, why don't you try to get these men in a job, like a job or position doing what you're doing? And the number one thing came across, he said, is they can't articulate themselves like he can. I don't know, again, what's the deficiency, but for whatever reason, that's the one area that they can't seem to do. So even though he can teach them, he can tell them, he can work with them, if he wants to be able to get them or assist them in getting a job that pays very well as a consultant, they have to know how to articulate themselves differently.
They have to be articulate. They also have to be able to bring some sort of, to the area in which one is consulting. Just because, consulting is not an easy task.
Mm-hmm. I went dark, Stan.
That's,
okay, Nick.
It's on that, yeah.
Okay.
Consulting is not an easy task. Mm-hmm. Everyone can't be a consultant. And in order to consult, you have to have clients.
Right.
Clients hire consultants because consultants are very, very good at what they do. Mm-hmm. Not just because you're a consultant, can you do the work and deliver the goods? So, you know.
And I got to be honest, I mean, there was a time in my period I just didn't know exactly what I wanted. And somebody told me that a long time ago. He said, you know, you got to really know what you want. And I guess you got to be determined and hungry too. You know, if you really don't know what you like, you know, you're on a ship, Stan, and you're sailing and you're going along for the ride, but you don't know exactly where you want to go to. You know, I don't know if I want to go to Europe. I don't know if I want to go to the Caribbean. I'm just going along for the ride. I'm on this cruise ship, but I have no idea where I really want to go to. And I don't even realize that. I guess on top of not knowing where you want to go, I don't even come to that realization that I realized that I don't even know where I wanted to go. So he told me that, you know, in my 20s, and maybe that's a common trend. You still growing, you still developing yourself, and then you end up getting lost. So now I'm lost, and I'm now trying to figure out where do I need to go to get back my life started, to get back on track, to figure out where I really want to go to.
Well, I think, you know, if an individual is unaware of where they want to go, they don't have to go back. They just need to start. You start from where you are. You can't go back in time. You can't go back 5 minutes ago. You can only go forward. So you have very little ability to change the past. But in the present, you can set a course for the future. So you have more power over the history that is yet to be made than you do over the history that is behind you. Information can help you make those choices. But at some point, you have to choose. Otherwise, you become paralyzed by the process of analyzing all the information. This is why some people don't make good leaders. They can't make a decision.
Can't make a decision, right.
Leadership requires you to make a decision. Being wrong is an inherent part of leadership. And anyone that's truly in leadership has no problem being wrong. Other people have problems with being wrong, and they think that being right is like a prerequisite of being the leader. Absolutely not. Making a decision, knowing when the decision is not the right one, and adjusting is what makes good leadership. That's why basketball and sports leadership is so important. You know when something's not working, so you change it. There's no bigger deal than that. So a lot of times people are so afraid of making the wrong choice that they won't make a choice at all, because they figure, well, where I am is better than making the wrong choice. What if I don't like what I made a choice? Then you don't like it. And adjust and move accordingly.
But what about a risk taker? Because everybody can't take big risks.
Everyone can take risk. Everyone doesn't choose
to take a risk. Because we mentioned last week when I told you about the college situation. I don't know if that's, I guess you can say going to college is that a risk though? Going to college shouldn't be a risk though. If you got
I can see no risk in going to college.
Okay. Now you did state that dropping out of high school is a bad, I guess that's a bad risk or a bad
That's a
decision.
bad. Dropping out of high school is not a wise decision. So if the next step for me would be, so why do you want to drop out of high school? The reason might make the decision a more acceptable one. Well, I'm dropping out of high school because I'm good at basketball. My agent's going to ink a $30 million deal. He tells me he's going to take $5 million of that for himself. They're going to put $5 million in my pocket. The other 20 they're going to put into a long-term annuity, which is going to pay me out to the rest of my life. Then you don't need to do nothing but manage your money.
Right.
So let's sit down and talk about your options. But that's not going to happen for most people.
Mm-hmm.
It just isn't.
Right.
I don't like the teacher. I'm bored. Whatever the case is. These are not rational. They are emotional, but they're not rational. So you sit down and have a conversation and help them get back on track and take you some of your own personal time or commitment over the long haul to help them out through their high school years. Mm-hmm. But that can't take no more than 4 years at the most.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, that's a bad decision. There's risk and there's bad decisions that you can make. And if you drop out of high school and let's say you're lured into something else to supplement your time and give you some income, but it's illegal, it's immoral, but you're willing to take that risk. Like some people say, if you're going to be a drug dealer or a pimp, you can't have no conscience, and you are taking a risk. It takes a certain level of courage.
Drug dealing and pimping are dangerous work.
Mm-hmm.
That shouldn't be high on your list of wants. And if you sit down and you look in the mirror and you say, should I continue with high school or should I pick up pimping?
Mm-hmm.
Or drug dealing?
Right.
We have some baseline issues that need to be dealt with because most people don't think of drug dealing and pimping as alternatives to high school. Most people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that it doesn't happen because clearly it does.
Mm-hmm.
But those are lives of criminals.
Right.
Do you want to be a criminal? Criminal lifestyle has deep risks.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is where our guest Coffin comes in. Because if you're going to be a drug dealer, the competition is not going to try and move you out by building a better restaurant across the street. They're going to drive by and shoot at you.
Right. Kill you.
Right. And you might be at a relative's house celebrating a birthday when the drive-by happens. Because the people you deal with are just as criminal and unethical as you are.
Mm-hmm.
And the information that they got was that you were going to be at the birthday party.
Right.
So they're going to drive by and just shoot you. They're not intending to kill everyone else, but because they don't know how to shoot, because they just got a gun, they don't know how to use the gun, but they know it shoots. They just pull in the trigger recklessly and wind up killing your little nephew and a couple of your cousins, but you survive.
Right.
Is that enough to make you stop selling drugs? No.
Mm-hmm.
To you, it's just part of the deal.
Part of the deal, yeah.
We got to do some get back. It's war.
All right.
So that kind of rationale and that kind of thinking is not it's not well grounded. But that's how criminals think.
But I'm going. Because sometimes and you don't really initiate this conversation. But one thing I like is you will never avoid this type of conversation. Because somebody recently in my household said, "Be careful, don't air out our dirty laundry to the open public."
That's always wise when you live in a household with other people, Jonathan.
You keep your dirty laundry.
Don't air their dirt on television and radio.
Well, just to people in general, they were saying that's
to people.
Yeah,
it's no one else's business what goes on in your house.
Right. But if we have a community, let's say, and we have dirty laundry, and we talked about this a few times on this show in the past, do we have the luxury not to deal with our dirty laundry that exists? It's we got serious problems. So do we have the luxury to cover it up, pretend that it doesn't exist? Hopefully we can work on it ourselves or put it out in the forefront and saying, look, this got to be dealt with. We got serious elements that is not being addressed. And some of it will point back to me. And that's kind of what maybe Giuliani was stating, that the Black Lives movements are not at the forefront of everyday gun violence victims of black people killing black people, but they take a high profile media approach when a law enforcement officer unjustifiably kills a black person. They take that as a high public profile priority, but they don't have that same they don't have the same commitment towards the other crimes that takes place. Now you got organizations that do that. So he's not correct neither, because you do got organizations that are out there every day if a serious crime takes place. Here locally, Mothers United Against Violence, and other places throughout the country. But maybe it doesn't draw the media coverage.
Well, I think that in all things given, I think it's fair to say that Rudy Giuliani is more than anything a politician.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a very skilled politician. He's a skilled lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a motive to why he says what he says and when he says what he says.
Mm-hmm.
Your question about airing dirty laundry, community laundry,
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's no better place than forums such as this and others
Mm-hmm.
for issues within our community to be talked about. Because if we don't talk about them, people like Rudy Giuliani talks about them.
Right.
And they talk about them from a frame of reference that is void of the community.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know anything about the community. He only knows what he observes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about his community. I could talk of stereotypes and things I didn't heard,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my base of information about his community? Couple TV shows, innuendo stuff I heard. So I'm not in a position to really talk about his community, and he's not in a position to talk about ours. So we have to have that discussion, and I think we should have that discussion more publicly so that others can actually hear what we think.
Well, see, like I say, the WKND local radio format has changed over the 10, 20 year period. So the newer people probably don't know much about the old formats of WKND, What's on Your Mind radio talk shows. People like Lou Brown was instrumental in putting that station together in some ways. He will remember. One time, people may not, a lot of people don't even know this person, what's the elders, Harry Hardy.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be like you said, a professional phone caller calling in WKND radio
I
station.
remember Harry.
And he said, we should not be airing our dirty laundry over the air because other people are listening. And he was saying, I guess he was referring to people who are listening don't have our best interests.
They don't.
They don't. So we need to be careful what we say.
That is a conventional mindset, not to talk about our dirty laundry, because people who don't know, people who don't have our best interests hear that, and now that information can be used against us.
And that's what he was
and that's a mindset, and I understand that mindset. I think it's flawed in some cases because other people will draw conclusions about us that are wrong because we're not talking about issues. Now, I think that one has to understand the difference between dirty laundry and issues. Now, someone might consider naming someone who's corrupt within the community as dirty laundry.
Right.
You don't want to put that out in public because then they'll know. We don't want them to know that we're divided among ourselves on this issue. They know that. They know that. The folk in our community that are selling the community out, undermining the community, working for other interests other than the community, many in the community don't know those people. The ones that do generally don't talk about that stuff in the clear because it's not advantageous. Those things you can deal with more in-house. But we shouldn't be afraid of talking about and naming individuals who are detrimental to the community publicly.
Right.
It's always how you go about doing things more than it does the doing of it.
Well, I think that's real important what you just said about airing our issues and then airing our dirty laundry, name calling and pointing people out. Because if you air important issues out in the public that you think people should hear about or know about, that's a little bit different than, let's say, airing out personal dirty laundries. I mean, there was some issues that used to come on. Again, this is dating myself, and you fall into the same demographic categories of what used to go on with some of our people like Dr. Kuba Asagai, Reverend Paul Ritter. There was conflicts and issues. A lot of ugly things at one point was said between Dr. Asagai against Reverend Paul Ritter and other people. Dr. Asagai, many people don't even know Dr. Asagai. The younger generation, people wouldn't know him, as you stated before. But he would come on, and he would not just come on WKND, but he would go to places and tell, particularly the Black American people, this is not how we should be doing things. I'm from Britain. We do things totally differently. Y'all are plantation like people. Y'all don't understand the whole way that we should function here. So people looked at him as an outsider, saying, who is he to come here telling, you need to get on a boat and go back the way you come from. That's what one time somebody told us, a guy.
Right. Well, I mean, that's a natural response.
Yeah.
Anytime you come someplace and you're going to criticize people and you're not from there, expect that kind of pushback. Mm-hmm. That's not necessarily the best way to win people over to your point of view.
Right. But if now I pick up the telephone, I call WKND, Ben Andrews show, and I mention what happened between Dr. Asagai and Reverend Paul Ritter at Hal's Diner, that would be like airing some of our, wouldn't that be like airing our dirty laundry?
I don't know that would be airing dirty laundry. That would be tantamount to gossip.
Gossip, okay.
Yeah, that's just gossip.
Gossiping, okay, so that's different.
Let me tell you what happened. I mean, that's gossip.
Okay.
And gossip is never well received by the broader audience. It's well received by people who like to hear gossip. Mm-hmm. There's whole television networks that are just, gossip, celebrity gossip. So gossip is salacious. It's sexy. It has appeal. It's tasty, like pork.
Right. So that's gossip.
That's gossip.
You don't
yeah, people like gossip. But the broader audience does not like gossip. It's a little niche, and it's unseemly. It's certainly unprofessional, and it what does it accomplish?
Right. More than anything, it doesn't really accomplish.
It doesn't accomplish anything.
Right.
It just fans the flames of discord, and that's never a good thing. Mm-hmm.
But again, bringing up issues, though, that's differently. That's what we need to do. Bring up issues.
Bring up issues, substantive issues that require, like the Giuliani thing. All right, so Giuliani, being a politician, has a vested interest in undermining the effectiveness of Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. So he makes the comments that he makes. So discussing that could help people understand where he's coming from relative to the situation so that they can have a broader understanding, take that information, and then recalculate what their defense to it will be and how to deal with it, and not just be emotional about stuff. But the conversation, when it comes from Black folk, is going to be different than somebody who is not Black, particularly somebody who is white, who has a frame of reference and sees it the way Giuliani is phrasing it. Because they don't have any other frames of reference. Where will they get them? Mm-hmm. They're not going to just drop into their mind, because people are they are the product. They are the byproduct of what they're exposed to. So if you're not exposed to anything else, then what you've been exposed to is all you'll know. So Black Lives Matter is an organization who was fighting for the things that they were fighting for before Floyd incident happened. Mm-hmm. For them as an organization moving their mission forward, this was the perfect thing to speak up on. They didn't speak up on it with an understanding that it would become a worldwide phenomenon. They just spoke up.
Mm-hmm.
The rest became what it was.
Right.
So, does Black Lives Matter reflect the will and the sentiment of all black people? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's some issues with Black Lives Matter that anybody who is a Bible thumping Christian has some serious problems with.
Mm.
You know, so but those are separate issues.
Mm-hmm.
They're separate issues. Now, Black Lives Matter, as far as he's concerned, should be championing the cause of violence by blacks on blacks.
Right. That's what he stated.
But I don't mean this as any disrespect to the audience or Rudy Giuliani. No one gives a damn what he thinks. He does not have the authority, the right, or the position to dictate to any organization how they should be managed and run. He has a right to an opinion,
Right.
and he has aired that. But he believes he has agency to redirect what their mission is. That's what he is trying to do. He knows that that is not their mission. So he is undermining the effectiveness of their organization and sowing seeds of discord into the mindset of the general audience. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Right.
He's a skilled prosecutor. Nothing comes out of Rudy Giuliani's mouth without forethought and intention. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Right.
So,
Well, again, I'm trying to stay neutral on this, you know, one way or the other, and not lean towards the.
sometimes you can't be
You
neutral.
can't be neutral sometimes. So you got to pick a side.
You have to pick a side sometimes.
Right. What you are for, or what you believe in, or what you are against. I guess. Do I agree or do I believe? See, if I go by, let's say, homicides and crime, and I'm saying for a city, it needs to be dealt with. And now you asked me let's say you asked me the tough question: am I in favor of stop and frisk as an approach to reduce crime? The only way I can be in favor of stop and frisk is unless I have no problem with the cops frisking me down. But when you stated that if it becomes every day, then that's the real problem. If, you know, every now and then maybe they're looking for a suspect. I'm in the area. They want to make sure, you know, do I have a gun on me or whatever the case may be. Okay, they checked me down one time. I know I don't have a gun on me, so I don't feel like I got nothing. I know I don't have drugs on me. So them stopping me down is only going to take a few minutes. They're not going to find anything on me unless they're going to plant drugs on me. Now, if that becomes a problem, then I don't want the cops stopping and frisking me down. And I've heard that some cops have planted drugs on people.
Criminal cops. They're criminal cops.
Right.
Just because they're a cop doesn't mean they're not a criminal.
They're not a criminal. But just let's say for a 1 or 2 minute pat down. But no, I don't want this every day. I don't want the cops 5 days of the week. Every time I go to an area, I'm a black person living in Harlem or Hartford. But this was mostly in his city, New York. I don't want the cops frisking me down every
There
single
should
day.
be there's no justification for police officers just frisking you down. You are a citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Their job is to protect and serve you.
Mm-hmm.
They are not sacrosanct. They're not above the law. They are servants of the public
Right.
who do a noble job and risk their lives. We entrust them to the degree that we give them a gun, a taser, and a baton. And we give them unfettered authority to use deadly force at their discretion.
Mm-hmm.
That is a tremendous amount of responsibility and authority vested to them by us. We are not their servants. We are not on a plantation. And because they have a badge does not give them the right to impose their will on us. Now, if you have a reason to stop and frisk people coming out of the building because somebody in there was shot, and you want to make sure that everybody coming out of the building is free of a firearm so that you can establish that the firearm must still be in there, and that no one coming out of the building, now that you've established some justifiable rationale, but people just walking up and down the street, you have a right in this country to bear arms.
Right.
Guaranteed by the Constitution. Whether it was written for black folks, white folk, doesn't matter. It's guaranteed in the Constitution. That's a guarantee.
And that's the criticism that I would have against Giuliani. Then that's a wrong measure.
Did you do something? What have I done that requires you to stop and pat me down on the street?
Yeah. As a mayor, he can authorize the police chief. I guess he can appoint the police chief, and the police chief can set certain policies and standards. So that stop and frisk, I believe, came from Giuliani.
Well, I mean,
maybe he had some influence. Maybe it directly.
Those things. That's why we have a Constitution, because there are base rules. And folk don't know what the rules are, so they allow certain things to happen.
Right.
Now, because there may be a little local law, because somebody does something, doesn't mean that what they're doing is right. And you can challenge it. Now, better to take the lawful order and then challenge it later than to act a monkey and wind up being dead or shot or misunderstood or misinterpreted. But these are the real times that we live in. So if they stop you, that's one thing. Is it acceptable? And no. Do you have recourse? Absolutely.
Right.
And you have to exercise that recourse. If you don't exercise that recourse, there's going to be a problem.
But like you say, know how to do it. Don't have the cops pull you over and say F you to the cops.
That's
you ain't
never
gonna do
wise.
Nothing, and they think you're going to get away with it.
Right. You could see this happening without cops.
Right.
Guy yelling out the window, F you to the guy in the car over there. The guy gets out of the car with a tire iron and smash your window out, drag you out, and beat you up on the street. He's not a cop. You don't conduct yourself like that with other human beings, because you'll push their little button, and they might respond accordingly.
Right.
Why would you do that to a police officer?
Right.
What is there to be gained?
Particularly if you're not going to get away with it. I mean, you think you're going to get away with the cops not handling.
You would think that the police officer would be more professional. But police officers are people just like the one saying F you to the cop.
Right.
You would think that people wouldn't do that.
Right.
But they do. You would think that people would act nice on an aircraft. You should see how horrible people treat flight attendants.
Yes. It's a shame.
And restaurant staff. Because some people are just mean, nasty human beings.
Right.
And they don't have respect for other human beings. Clergy can be like that. Police can be like that. Doctors can be like that. That's how human beings sometimes act. And because they may have the cloak of clergy or the cloak of doctor or the cloak of police officer, doesn't mean it's okay. And it doesn't mean they get away with it.
But see, again, here's now where we have to debate, is this airing our dirty laundry or just being factual with our issues and information? If we know the police department is going to make a policy now to go towards stop and frisk, and the African American Alliance and other organizations, y'all go and tell some guys on the street corner, look, y'all got drugs on you, y'all carrying guns. So if the cops pull you over, you're going to get busted with with your drugs and guns.
Well, I would not do that.
Right.
I wouldn't do that. And in my current role as the president of the African American Alliance, I cannot speak for the membership. I am the official voice of the membership, but I can't speak for the membership. I speak for the membership as the membership votes. But currently, it is not the position of the Greater Harvard African American Alliance to go up to street criminals and tell them that the police are out here frisking you. So if you have drugs and a gun, you may want to watch out. First of all, you don't have no business selling drugs.
Right. Or would y'all encourage people who do go on the streets, like Andrew Woods and Hartford Community That Cares, y'all should be telling the drug dealers on the street corner exactly?
I would be telling drug dealers on the street corner to stop selling drugs. Mm-hmm. That's the only message I have for drug dealers on the street corner.
Stop selling it.
Stop. Find something else to do. You're destroying the community.
So you can't compromise with the underground drug economy and other elements. Then you don't believe, and I respect you because you stand very strong to your principles, what you believe in. You know, you're not gonna say, well, as long as you don't. See, you can say to drug dealers, look, as long as you just sell your drugs and you don't go out harming people, shooting people, robbing people, then it's all right. But you can't take that stance, or you can't take that approach to say, well, look, this is how y'all want to make money. I don't agree with it, but I'm willing to compromise and saying, as long as y'all just sell drugs and you don't go out gangbanging and doing any other violent crimes, then I'll look the other way. You still don't want them out there.
They shouldn't be out there, Jonathan. They're breaking the law. Right, no. So, I am not naive to the degree that I believe that there won't always be an underground economy, and there won't always be an opportunity for people to exploit a desire or a need that someone has to get them whatever products that they want.
Right.
That's going to happen. But on the other hand, I'm not going to sit back and sanction it. We're not going to sanction, not if I have the authority to stop it.
Right. Because it's almost like saying, I mean, this is where we could get into a borderline airing our dirty laundry or just the issues. If we have some family members who have their sons knowing that they're selling drugs, but the money that they're using is paying bills in the house, and hey, it's making life easier. You know, he's paying all of the bills, but he's selling drugs. He's bringing some form of destruction to the house, or he could be, but because he's flipping $1,000 mortgage payment every single month. My son, I know he's a drug dealer, but I want the bills paid. Is this now airing our dirty laundry, or just telling issues
that's way above and beyond an issue? If someone is putting that out there, that's airing dirty laundry.
Oh, okay.
But that is a complex issue. It's not just it's deeper than just airing dirty laundry. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of compromise going on. There's a lot of different issues here, and there's going to be a lot of rationalization, a lot of justification, this, that, and the third. Well, so it's not just a passing issue.
But Stan, we can ignore this problem and saying, just because it doesn't exist in my household or it doesn't exist in my family, and I guess it starts with your household and family. You can't run somebody else's household and family. But as a leadership role for organizations that take this role as a leadership, should they be more vocal in saying, look, we got people in our community that is looking the other way towards the drug game. They know their children or some of their children is selling drugs, and they're taking that money, letting it pay bills.
Well, but you speak of it in the context of organizations should say something. Organizations do say something. Because somebody says something doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
And you say.
That's all.
It'd be different if what you said happened. Like if you could speak and not a thing became a thing, then speak up.
Yeah.
But you saying something doesn't mean that somehow people are going to stop.
Right. You can't
make
somebody. Right. But see, like you say, this is what we get.
Criminals do not feel guilty when you point out they're wrong.
But as you a law-abiding citizen parent or an adult in the household, and
you're not law-abiding. If you are an adult living in a household where your kids are paying the rent through drug money, you're not a law-abiding adult.
Right. Okay.
You're complicit in the crime of your children.
Right.
And you're exploiting them for your own personal gain. And you can justify it and rationalize it any way you want. You know that your kids are bringing in $1,000 a week, $1,000 a day, selling drugs, and you're okay with that? That's a problem within that household. But we don't run that household.
Right.
Those people run that household. And if that's how they want to run their household, then they will become victims of their lifestyle.
Well, that's what I'm saying then. So they're not the parents or the adults in the household. If you know somebody is selling drugs, it's almost like you should say, you need to get out of my house or I'm going to call the police if you don't get out of my house. Because I know for you, that's how you would take the approach.
A parent at that point has pretty much lost control of the
house.
So,
right.
you know, they're not in a position to say, you know, if you don't leave, I'm gonna call the police. They have criminals for children.
Right.
And the children are running the house.
Running the house, yeah.
They not only run in the house, they're running a very dangerous, a very lucrative business.
Right.
And they have obligations that they have to fulfill. They're not just walking away, and they have no problem being harmful to people who get in their way.
Get in their way, yeah.
So you have elder abuse, spousal abuse.
Right.
And you ain't kicking me out the house. I pay rent in. You don't do. What do? You sit up and you go to your little church meeting and you were praying for me?
Yeah.
You better shut up, old woman, and take your medicine and carry on like you got some sense. Tell me how to run this. I run this house.
Right.
We did a whole play.
Okay.
Called The Door. That's a scene out of one of our plays, one of our church plays.
Okay.
My dear friend, Bishop Terry Stringer, kicked me out his church when we were doing that play.
Oh, he did?
Absolutely.
Oh.
And that's not dirty laundry, it's the facts.
Right.
We had gone over the line as far as he was concerned. We're not going to do that in my sanctuary. We respectfully ask you to leave. Security. And they walked us out.
Did you take it personal?
I didn't take it overly personal. I tend to take things like that in the moment personally.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. He was well within his rights as the steward of the shepherd of that church, and he asked us to leave, and we left. And so, now we can say when we get kicked out of other places that we've been kicked out of better places than this.
Yeah.
So you make the best out of it. Yeah, I love Brother Stringer. He's a brother in the Lord and all that other stuff. But those are lines out of a play that I wrote.
Okay.
Yes, called The Door, and the scene is Lenny. The character is Lenny, and Lenny is selling drugs. His mother's a church-going woman, and she's praying for her son, and she's telling him how if he doesn't stop selling drugs, he's gonna end up like his brother. And he ain't having it. He's not hearing it.
Right.
I didn't kill him. You killed him. That's what the boy says to his mother. You killed him. You killed him because you ain't provide nothing.
Oh.
I got to be out here on the street selling drugs to make ends meet because you ain't doing nothing.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? Go down and work at McDonald's? I know the line. There's this script. You want me to do work at McDonald's and look like a fool? How I look working at McDonald's? I got friends out here making more money than your father, than your so-called baby daddy. It's ugly.
It's ugly, yeah.
It's real. Right.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, Stan, again,
I understand all of that, Jonathan, but that doesn't make it right.
Right. So you can't compromise.
So you don't compromise, and you get a hold of your household from the jump street. Certain things don't happen in your house. So you cut that off before it becomes a problem.
Right.
Not down the road when you've compromised.
And there's no justification of compromising. If you feel as you're under stress as an adult parent that I can't maintain this household, you have to believe there's other ways than allowing your son to say he can take care of the mortgage of the household and just let me crash here and I'll have to do what I have to do to make money. But I'll take care because unfortunately, Stan, this exists.
I know it exists.
This is not a make-up hype that I'm trying to say. Now, this is not the norm. Now, I don't want to give the impression to people this is the norm that takes place. But when you hear every now and then somebody gets killed and you're wondering where is this coming from? This guy owes somebody money. He didn't pay back the money or something.
Right.
Something ugly went wrong in this whole picture.
Yes.
And prevention methods, I mean, it's not easy because this is a complex matter, this illegal drug trade.
Right. If you owe people money, you have to pay them back.
Right. And they'll tell you, I don't care where you get the money from.
They don't care, but you owe the money.
Mm-hmm.
So you should not have gotten into debt. You can't go to the bank and say, I need an extension on my loan. These people don't give you extensions on the loan.
Mm-hmm.
Nor did they make you borrow the money.
Right.
You take possession of product, you need to deliver.
Mm.
You can't tell the McDonald's distributor people that you're having a tough time. Now that's not how they conduct business. This is a business that's ruthless. If you want to be involved in the business, there's rules.
Right.
The outside people who have all of this head stuff going on. Oh my God! No. The people playing the game understand exactly what's going on.
Mm.
Now, the do-gooders and all of the policy setters want to make some real change, then they will make change.
Right.
They know what's going on. They're not interested in making change.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, change would happen.
Mm-hmm.
When people want change, they get change.
Well, let's hope to believe that the Mothers United Against Violence and the Hartford Community that cares really have the best sincerity and they do want to make changes.
They want to make changes,
Yeah.
but the changes that they can make are limited because they provide services after the fact.
Mm-hmm. All right. And if this was an easy, well, maybe it is easy if you do what needed to be done. See, right off at the bat, you're not going to allow a situation to get out of control in your household. You're not going to allow somebody to come in here and run your network in a direction, just using the network as one example. I can't green light anything that you don't approve of.
This is true.
You don't dictate to me what guests to book. But if I bring a certain guest that I know would be highly controversial, if I brought a pimp on and he talks about, and he brings another of his females on the format, you and Aisha will probably have a problem with that. So
but I think that might be over the edge.
Over the edge.
So you wouldn't bring somebody like that.
I wouldn't bring anybody
right,
like
right,
that.
Right.
But I'm saying is you set high standards with your network. And that's one good example because so many other formats don't set high standards. And this is what you have now with the internet. You have all types, not to say that the internet is the sole reason, but it's almost like the internet may be like the fuel on the flame or the water. Like you get instant access to anything that you are looking for, mm-hmm. good or bad, mm-hmm. through the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for something negative or illegal, you want to get your mind geared into that direction, the internet now gives you that quick instant access that you can jump right into something, pretty much what you're looking for, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And if your mindset is not set at the right stage and you want to find something that gives you that instant gratification or thrill, the network now gives you something that you didn't have maybe 30 or 40 years ago. Is this another part of the problem now that, sexual predators and all of these type of people now can get access to things that they couldn't get in the past? Maybe 40 years ago, a sexual predator didn't have access to certain things that he can get.
Well, ease of access makes access easier. So, once upon a time, getting to certain things was difficult.
Right.
If, as you suggest, the internet is a great leveling the playing field, then the internet is also a great place for everybody.
Everybody, right.
So I'll do a nighttime Bible study if only 5 people watch.
Right.
Because at least it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So all the people who could do good should take advantage of the things that are there, just like the people who don't do good take advantage. The problem is less the evil folk
mm-hmm.
doing things and more the good folk doing nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Darkness abides when someone won't turn on the light.
Mm-hmm.
The darkness is easy to defeat.
Right.
Turn the lights on.
Mm-hmm. Well, Stan, I know, and some people may not know, and again, I'll let you decide if you want to really, if it's even necessary to get into this conversation. You had a tremendous platform when you was running for mayor, particularly in 2011, and some things you probably didn't disclose over the air because maybe it wasn't the proper format. I know one time you was a guest on the Dan Lovallo show, and people was questioning, where's this Yasha Barjona at that Stan is talking about? And then eventually Yasha Barjona did come on the Dan Lovallo show, and some people, one caller particularly, this guy from Waterbury that I used to talk to, Dave, he called Yasha Barjona a phony. He didn't buy into this whole concept that Y3K Global Media was going to come and provide the type of jobs that you and Yasha Barjona was stating. And I believe that was the only time, because I asked you even after that show, would you come back on? And you said you weren't ready to come back on Dan Lovallo's show. Not for that topic, not to bring Yasha Barjona back on again. But you had a platform. I think what people might have missed sight is you wanted to use the proposal of the 2,500 jobs to do a lot of things all in one time. Not, provide opportunities to people that need it, but even as a crime measure approach. It's hypothetical, and I know you don't like to get into hypotheticalness. And realism is, it's not here. It's not 2,500 good paying jobs like that here in Hartford for people. There are jobs here for people, but not the way that project was designed to do.
Well, that project would have done a lot of things, and it would have happened. And the best thing the best thing anybody running for office can do is deliver on what they said they were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump has done that.
Right.
People don't like Donald Trump. They're terrified of Donald Trump. And they don't like him for good reasons, and they're terrified for good reasons. But one thing he did is deliver on his promises.
Mm-hmm.
Roe v. Wade being overturned is one of them.
Well, okay.
So people can say what they want about how difficult it is to get things done. One of the most disliked human beings on the planet delivered on almost everything he said he was going to do when he was elected. I only say that to say this. If you deliver as an elected official, it ends all arguments and discussions.
Right.
I have had every confidence and still do. Had we been able to do those things, Hartford would be a different city right now. It's a moot point because I didn't win. Winning would have made doing those things difficult, but more possible. They cannot be done without someone in office who's willing to do what it takes to get it done. And you become a disruptor of the status quo. And the status quo fights back with everything they have. But we have strategies and methodologies which we would deploy to get these things done. Very effective. Very, very effective. In 2011 and in 2019.
19, right.
Our plans would be, we'd be able to put them into play.
Right.
Very, without, I'm going to tell people what the strategies were.
Yeah.
But absolutely. Waterbury Dave is entitled to his opinion. As he was always famous for spreading it. To listen to Waterbury Dave.
Yeah.
Every problem in Connecticut, every problem in Hartford is because of black single women.
Black single woman.
So, what the hell does Waterbury Dave know?
And
former teacher, and former teacher and contributor to the demise of the Harvard educational process. If Dave wanted to take that on,
you remember Dave?
I know exactly who Waterbury Dave is. You know,
right.
I never spoke to Waterbury Dave, but you know, if he's a teacher, used to teach in a Harvard system, this, that, and the third. You know, he's probably one of the people telling black kids that they can't be doctors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a while.
Like Brad Noel used to do. I know stuff.
Right.
So I mean, you know, these people that say these things say them in the context that makes no, you know, they're not worth talking about. Mm-hmm. That's why you never hear me talk about it, because what they say is their opinion and only that. It means nothing. Mm-hmm. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
Well, truthfully, I did want you to come back on the format with Yasha Barjona.
There was no need. We said what we had to say, and that was it. Mm-hmm. It's not a debatable issue.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We don't have to deliver anything. We not lose sleep because someone doesn't want something. See, if you have something you can offer, the crime isn't being told we don't want what you're offering. The crime is never to make the offer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I only need to make the offer and put in the effort. If someone tells me no, I'm good.
Yes.
I hope people fully understand and appreciate that. I am always good when someone tells me no. I'm committed to the yes. Mm-hmm. But the yes is a lot of work, and there's very little reward for it. Mm. But the greater good is worth the effort. Mm-hmm. All right. But if people say no, all right, I'm good. I'm good.
Well, when you again, I mean, I should.
And that's not sour grapes or spilt milk.
Mm-hmm. I hate to say this, but I gotta ask you: when you lose the elections running for mayor, do you look at it as a personal setback? Or
oh no. No. When you run for mayor and do the kind of work I do, you don't get any work. Mm-hmm. Because you're running for mayor.
Right.
Running for mayor against the machine does not place you in the best of light. Mm-hmm. Now, no one's been vindictive, but they most certainly haven't gone out of their way to do stuff. Mm-hmm. So there are challenges. If you lose, then things start to normalize.
Right.
And so there's no personal setback. Mm-hmm. There's no personal setback.
Right.
Now, I can't speak for other people. I can only speak for myself. I've run for office. My wife has run for office. There's been no setback for either of us as a result of running for office. Mm-hmm.
The only thing you had to make I guess, somewhat of a big adjustment, you had to change your political party. I don't know if that was a tough decision, but I guess it's a realistic decision that you can't be a Republican and win.
Well, I was a Republican in 2007, Jonathan.
Right,
that was a long time ago. All right. And so I was never affiliated with any party, but ran as a Republican in 2007. And so at the end of that race, I left the party. Mm-hmm.
But it's more important why. Well, why is a realistically point that a Republican can't win.
A Republican's not going to win in Hartford. Mm-hmm. Can't win. The only way a Republican could win in Hartford is all the Democrats decided to vote for a Republican.
And that's not going to happen.
Why would it happen? They're not Democrats because they believe in democratic principles, and they are dedicated to the party philosophy. Mm-hmm. They're not going to vote against the will of the party.
Right.
No more than you would bring a stripper on this television network.
Right.
You just wouldn't do it.
No.
If someone paid you, you wouldn't do it.
No. I got certain standards.
Right. You just wouldn't. And so that's what it's like voting for a Republican. The Republicans stand for things that are different than Democrats. One side of the coin is a head, the other side of the coin is tails. They're never going to be what they aren't. So the heads are always going to vote for the head side of the coin.
All right.
And the tail's always going to vote for the tail side of the coin. And so let's see which one wins. They're not going to flip. They're not going to flip. That's just not going to happen.
Well, again, I mean, you moved on. I mean, I'm the one that constantly brings up the 2011.
Yes, you are, and I will hear about it from other people.
Other people, yeah. You know, I mean, you've moved on, and you don't dwell on it.
I don't dwell on the past.
You don't dwell on the past.
The past is gone.
Now, if the past affects the future, and this is the one thing that sometimes people got to realize, even with a criminal record. And, you know, our guest stated that there are some tremendous barriers, but she is not going to allow that to overcome her. So sometimes your past decisions do have an effect on your present and future decisions.
Well, in a roundabout way. I mean, past actions. Can have bearing on the now and future decisions, because people in the future and now may hold your past against you.
Right.
Other than that, they don't know the past. Everybody is the direct result of their past. For better or worse. It's just life.
Right. You got any shows planned? I know you do the Wednesday show. Is Luis? I didn't see him last week.
He was not here.
He was not
week.
here. Okay, right. So because that's the first time he ever missed a show since I've been watching. At least unless that's the one that I can.
Well, he'll be here Tuesday.
Right.
I mean Wednesday more than likely, unless something comes up.
Okay.
I mean, he's not on retainer.
Right.
You know, I could double your pay at any time and wouldn't hurt me financially.
Right. Considering
you all don't get anything.
Don't get anything. Exactly.
Right. It's hard to double the pay of a volunteer. No, he's not obligated to be here.
No, I was just wondering because I just know I've never seen him miss the show, so I just kept watching, and then I realized he wasn't going to be on for that particular show. But again, you know, let's say how things go for the new month of July, working on some shows. Hopefully, like I say, the guest from Harlem, that's pretty much set. It's just a matter of which date I want to bring him. And now that we're going to have a break, it'll kind of make it easier for me to bring this guest probably the following week. As I mentioned off of the air, July 3rd, 2022 will mark somewhat of the 10-year anniversary of me being part of AccessTV.org network.
That's right. Start out with the small report.
The small report.
Small report.
And a lot of people that was started it back then is no longer a part of the network. That, you know, when you first started it, this format here at this location, you know, it wasn't just me. It was other people.
They would be here if I hadn't run for mayor.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that changed a lot.
That changed a lot because I was in essence gonna. You came back.
Came back. That's right. I came back.
Right. You came back because everything had stopped. I was quite content to stop.
Right.
Believe it or not, I am not a morning person.
And nobody would never realize that because they see your morning shows throughout the
Right.
week.
I'm dedicated to the cause, but I'm not a morning person. If I had my way, I would almost just be getting up now.
And I'm a morning person. Get up my body clock is designed to get up in the morning.
I get up every morning at 5:00.
Okay.
But I wake up between 5 and 6, I should say. I don't go to bed till 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
Yeah, and then I might catch a nap in between. But if it was up to me, I would absolutely. Like my second sleep is at 7:00. But I have to get up.
That's right.
So.
Well, you know, like I said, I mean, continue doing what you're doing with the network and other areas. Again, I can't think of any more big stories, at least none that comes to mind right off at the bat. But like I say, man, if we don't see each other next weekend, you have a nice holiday weekend, and enjoy yourself. And then the following week I'll be back here, hopefully if it's God's willing, and then we'll start off the July format. I guess that'll be July the 11th, be like 3 Mondays in July. So that gives me some time to work on the guest format and putting that in order and putting that together.
All right.
And like you say, I enjoyed the show this morning, and let's just see how things go for the rest of the day.
All right, Jonathan. Jonathan Small, every Monday here on accesstv.org, on Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter, and other social media. Broadcasting live from the greatest city on earth, Hartford, Connecticut, New England's rising star. Join us this evening at 10 o'clock for Bible study. Those of you who are so inclined, Light Source Victory Television, 10 o'clock tonight. We'll see you then. Mr. Small.
All right.
Good to see you as always. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
All right. All right, my friends. Email us at morningtalk@accesstv.org if you'd like to get on our phone-in list. Send me an email with your phone number. I'll log the phone number in after I call you back and make sure that you're a human being. And then anytime you call, it'll come up on the screen, official caller. And you can chime in and take part with the conversation or in the conversation with us. All right? We'll see you next time. You all have a great rest of your day, and special thanks to our guests. Bye.
Bye-bye.
My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I do business as Light Source Productions. I provide professional services in the area of strategic video communications. First, what we do is we help you craft your message using what I call the rule of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. We do event documentation, content acquisition, full-scale productions, editing, and of course distribution through our social media television network. And with social media, video is more important now than it has ever been. Whether you're talking big business, small business, nonprofit, church, or just an individual. Let's say you plan you're planning an event, a wedding, whatever the case may be. But let's say a big event, but no video. And you spent all this time, all these hours to put this event on, and maybe 100, 200 people attend the event. But more important than that is that thousands could attend by watching it on social media. But of course, you don't think about this until after the event is over. You can't afford not to capture it for social media. And despite what people think, I am affordable. Give me a call. Let's plan your next video project and share it with the world on my social media television network. I promise you that you will have the attention of one person, me.